Hello, Legionnaires. Right now, the tabletop RPG hobby sits at a crossroads. Dungeons and Dragons keeps fumbling. The OSR scene keeps splitting into 1,000 one true way camps. Shadow Dark is rising like a phoenix from the ashes of the old and the new. And a lot of rules light games, well, they tend to feel great for a one shot, then peter out when you want long, epic campaigns with real weight and real consequences. So today, look at that right there on the screen. I'm putting the spotlight on a game almost everybody recognizes by name, but far too many people skip for the wrong reasons. And that's the Palladium Fantasy role playing game. This is a fantasy RPG that gives you as much structure as you want, as much freedom as you can handle, and the tools to unleash your imagination without trapping you in a modern build engine treadmill. Now, this live stream, and yes, for people watch this later, it's a live stream, so it's going to be long, maybe a bit long, but I'll hit 8 pillars that will tell you quick, fast, and in a hurry. Probably not. If this game fits your table. I'm going to start with races and OCCs, move on to straightforward skill system, check out a combat system that thrives on the action reaction choices, magic and psionics with real identity, and the big one, how this game supports both heroic fantasy and or dirty boots adventure in the same campaign. So if you like it gritty, if you like it heroic, if you like it somewhere in between. In the end, you will see how this one book can give you hours, even years or decades of imaginative role-playing and adventure fun. If you want a deeper dive after this, we have a full playlist of the Palladium Fantasy RPG linked in the description. That series takes a much deeper look at the game with both a loving and critical eye. Remember, this is a live stream, not an edited video. Yes, this part's scripted because I wanted to get through it. We're going to flip pages, talk nerd, dig into what makes this book work at the table. And a reminder, 8 sections. Section 1, playable races. Section 2, the occupational character classes. Section 3, skills, simple, usable, and adventure friendly. Section 4, combat. Section 5, magic. Section 6, psionics. Section 7, heroic fantasy versus the gritty, dirty boots adventure. And finally, just talk about how this is a complete book, all in one game, with expansions for days if you want more. So with that, let's crack this open. Let's talk about Palladium Fantasy RPG. I feel like I'm not centered here. Oh, there we go. Now I'm a little more centered. Got that autism kicking in that I don't have. So in, I guess, segment 1, we'll call it. I don't know. We're going to look at the races. Now, just for full disclosure out there, because it's a live stream, I'll read the super chat in a moment here. I do have parts of the scripted. Most of it is not, but I want good intros here. So if it's not a segment for you, you can find the next one. Hopefully I timestamp these later so you know when I talk about the races, when I talk about the character classes, yada, yada, yada. And you can pick and choose a section you want. I may even clip it into shorter videos, but I highly doubt that. We'll see. Anyway, if a fantasy game's races feel like nothing more than cosmetic skins, there's no point in having them. As AD&D 2nd Edition used to say, they're just humans in funny skin suits. As we like to say in more modern parlance, it's just cosplaying humans with, pointy ears. That stuff's ridiculous. Don't do it, okay? Races are not meant to be cosplaying humans. They are meant to be unique and different. Alien. In the Palladium Fantasy role-playing game, one's race shapes the character's problems, allies, enemies, and social gravity right from the start. When a player picks a race, he picks a place in the world's food chain, so to speak, not a stat tweak. Now, stick around. Let's take a look at a couple of the races right after I read Super Chatter 5. All right, so Patriotic Gestalt for $20. Long time, no Super Chat. Well, I appreciate that, Patriotic Gestalt. And also thanks for being here back on Sundays. I saw you there. But appreciate the Super Chat and thank you for hanging out today. Sergeant Mushroom for the cause. This is a good cause, sir. At least I'd like to think so. And if not, well, we're going to still pretend it is anyway. Oh, there we go. Even the bad guy thinks he's the good guy in his own story, right? All right, let's open up this book. Where'd my book go? Where'd my book? Oh, over on this side now. All right, and we are going to look at the races. I don't know what page they are. I probably should have got page numbers before I did this, but that would have been smart, so I didn't. I know they're toward the back. Player races. There we go. 288. By the way, look at this. How many pages? Because I know later on I'm going to say it's about 300 pages. Like 336 pages of goodness right there, right? So let's go to 288. map of the known world, and you can make your own world. You don't have to do this world right here. You can make your own. You can use the parts you like. This is a pretty big and expansive world. If you're just starting, don't worry about it. Just pick a location and go from there. So we've got humans, right? Well, actually, let's look at this little table down here. No, I did not research the book at all before doing this. I'm doing this all based on my own experience with the game. And now we're going to look at the book to make sure I'm right? All right. Humans and their allies. Humans, elves, dwarves, gnome. Pretty typical, right? But then there are the monster races. We got giants, goblins, hobgoblins, kobolds, orcs, ogres, troglodytes, trolls, wolfen, and coils. Nobody likes a coil. Don't be a coil. Don't let it happen. I'm very pro wolfen. And changelings and others. And there are many source books out there. If you want to incorporate more, that is going to be up to you. Don't get bogged down, number one, and don't get overwhelmed by all the source material out there. I hear this about Rifts more than I do Palladium Fantasy. It was like, oh my God, there's so much. I couldn't encapsulate it all. You don't need to. And any, I don't want to say real, but any normal Palladium Fantasy fan isn't going to care that you don't know what's going on over in the Cyclops Islands if you're not dealing with the Cyclops Islands, okay? It's okay. Just pick a location, make it your own world if you want, and just go from there. You don't have to overthink this. Now, can these monster races get along with humans? To some degree. I was in a party where I was a wolfen. I think there are 2 humans, and our mage of all things was an ogre. That's right, an ogre mage. So yes, you can do that. They have their animosities, but they're not to the point where it's absolutely deal breaking in the game. So let's see. What do we want to look at? Let's pick gnomes. Why? Because I always Ethan Doug's gonna kill me for this, but I like gnomes. I don't know if I like them in Palladium, but I like gnomes. I tend to play a lot of AD&D gnomes. And for the should we do wolfen? Should we do my 2? Yeah, you know what? We're gonna do wolfen. Why? Because you can't. No. We're actually gonna do ogres. Something that's just so off the wall. So we'll look at gnomes and ogres and see what it says for them. And then you can kind of get an idea for the rest. Okay, there's dwarf there. By the way, this game has 100,000 years of history. I think if I remember correctly, if I got my dates right, the Elf-Dwarf War ended 25,000 years ago. Think of that in humanity terms, like right now. What was the Earth doing 25,000 years ago? So, but that's when the Elf-Dwarf War ended, and there's still reverberations from that to this day. All right, there's gnomies, or genomes. Zoom in. I said zoom in. There you go. Do I want to read all this? I don't know. Let's see. Originally a subterranean race inhabiting the old king. Oh, zoom out here. The gnome race got caught in the crossfire between elf and dwarf during the Great War and were nearly eradicated from the face of the planet. Who would want to eradicate our little garden gnomes? Come on now. The peace-loving gnomes had been friendly towards both and refused to take either side. Yet, despite now, you know what's kind of funny about that? Again, I don't know them in the Palladium context here, but I always look at gnomes in AD&D Second Edition, which is my primary edition to play, as just basically an amalgam of dwarves and elves. Well, here it's almost explicit. So, the survivors blame both elves and dwarves for the tragedy, and though the vast majority forgave their fellow subterranean and lanky surface dwellers, hate and revenge just aren't in the gnomes' nature. Some despise them to this very day. Ironically, gnomes felt and continue to feel closer to elves and humans than to dwarves, kobolds, or the fairy folk that they somewhat resemble. Many associate with both races and can be found living in human cities located in mountainous, hilly, or forested regions. So similar, a little different, but similar to D&D. We're not going to read all this here. They got clans, they've got yada yada. Since the obliteration of the gnome kingdoms, they have fallen easy prey to the monster races. I mean, they are snack-sized, right? Particularly kobolds and goblins who feel betrayed by the gnomes' relationship with dwarves, elves, and humans. Gnomes are also a favorite target of orcs, ogres, trolls, and even many large animal predators. What did I say? Gnome meat is a delicacy among kobolds and trolls, both of which have slain gnomes with a vengeance. So if you have a kobold and a gnome in a party, As a result, gnome population has fallen sharply over the last millennium, and one of the reasons they have fled their shallow mountain tunnels for the safety of human cities and secluded forests. All right, let's just go to their stats now. You get kind of an idea. You can see one there. Typical gnome look, right? Alignment. They can be any, but you tend to be good or selfish. For those of you who don't know what alignments are or are coming from Dungeons and Dragons, just know that that the Palladium alignment system is different, but I can't even put a number on it. It's not 100 times better. It's not 1,000 times. It's infinitely better than the Dungeons and Dragons alignment system. I personally don't really like alignments. I tend to prefer games without alignments. But if you're going to have alignments, this is literally the one and only system that I would ever utilize alignments from. Is Palladium. And it's kind of known across like the gaming community as a whole that even the people complain about Palladium be like, yeah, you know, the alignment system is pretty dang good. Attributes, this is a number of 6-sided dice to be rolled as designated. So IQ is 3d6. And I just had somebody give me a nasty message, not nasty, but a negative message on an older video, not Palladium related, talking about, you know, stats. Well, I'll say it here too, just to make him angry again in case he watches this one. Don't change this. 3d6 is the proper number to roll. Not 4d6 reroll ones, not 7d6 reroll threes or whatever. Not roll 85 times and pick the top 8 that you prefer. This is the way to roll. And there are various reasons for that are baked into this game. And I'm going to give you 2 real quickly. I think I'm going to talk about this later as well. First, for the most part, a couple caveats to this, but for the most part, an attribute of 3 or 15, there's no difference. There's really no difference. If you have a physical prowess, dexterity in D&D, of 3 or 15, you just have no bonus. There you go. Move on. All right. That's the first one. And secondly, you've got these races here, right? Well, they're meant to have different attributes. And if you roll a 16, 17, or 18 on 3d6, if you're rolling 3d6, then you get more dice to even add to it. So how do you do that when you're rolling 4d6 reroll ones? Every attribute you want is a 16 or better? I want these super excessive attributes. You don't need that. And we'll talk about that in the skill section of the game. I think it's in the OCC of the skill section. We're going to talk about that more. You don't need that. You can play a character with all 9s and 10s and you will be perfectly viable. Perfectly viable. Anybody who argues against that has either never played or is just wrong. That's just the way it is. So, and I'm not saying that, oh, that's just your opinion. No, it's first of all, it's the rules of the game, number one. So it has to be viable. And secondly, it is viable based on all the other things that will come with the character later on. So IQ 3d6, so same IQ as humans. All right, hopefully you guys can see that on the screen. I don't know if I can zoom in much more. I guess I can a little bit. Mental endurance, 1d6 plus 6. This means they can be a little gullible. Does that sound like a gnome to you? I think it does. Mental affinity is 3d6 plus 4. So this is their ability. This trusting to me. Yeah, so they're trusting. People are like, oh, a gnome said it. It's probably true. Okay. Physical strength, 1d6 plus 4. Not the strongest out there, but they are tiny as well. But on the physical endurance, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's physical prowess. Physical prowess, which is basically your dexterity, 4d6. So they're kind of quick. Got a little dexterity going on there, a little nimble. Physical endurance is 3d6 plus 6. So imagine that 4d6, but you get an automatic 6 in there. Booyah. There you go. So again, they're underground dwellers. Kind of dwarf-like. So 3d6 plus 6 works. And apparently they're cute. I don't understand that. You know, but they're cute. So 4d6. And then they have a speed of 2d6 running. So they're a little slow, but then again, they got short, little stumpy legs, right? But they have 1d6 speed for digging. That's pretty darn good right there. So that gives you an example. Their hit points. We're not going to go into a full character creation, montage here, but physical endurance. This is how everybody does it. And SDC, which is kind of, think of that as like your vitality. It's over your hit points. It's like I don't want to call it physical armor, but I think that's the term I'm going to use. It's the preliminary. You got the shields, and then you got the meat, right? Think of that as like your own little personal shield, so to speak. Again, I know Palladium fans know what this is, but I'm speaking to people who are not Palladium fans right now. So you most times, there come a couple caveats to this, you take away from your SDC before you take away from your hit points. So, and the OCC, which we'll talk about later, that's your character class. So if you have a more combat-oriented character class, you're probably going to be a little more resolute. If you're not, if you're like a Diabolist or something, you're probably going to be a bit more squishy. It's just, that's the way these games work, right? So that's the GNOME. It's got more information here. It'll tell you what classes they can be, natural abilities, and so on and so forth. Like again, there's the underground tunneling, um, underground architecture. It's again, it's like Dungeons and Dragons. You're going to get special bonuses. I don't want to focus too much time on any one topic here. This is already going to be a long stream, and we're still in the first section here. We got the kobolds, goblins, yeah, or troglodytes. We passed them. Something ugly. Orcs. Why is this freezing on my screen? Ogres. There we go. Let's look at the ogre because I said we would. I'd rather look at the wolfen because that's more my thing. But hey, we'll do the ogre. Do I have this all on here? Nope. I'll have to zoom out one. All right. Ogres resemble giant Neanderthal cousins to humans. In fact, some scholars believe ogres do share the same ancestral lineage as humans and may be mutants. Wow. This belief is given credence by the fact that ogres can and do successfully mate with humans, producing healthy offspring. Such offspring are always considered ogres. While humans and ogres may share a common ancestry, the similarity ends there. Ogres are giant-sized compared to most humanoids, powerful in limb and wicked in temperament. These misanthropes distrust all humanoid life, even the other subhuman races, including trolls, goblins, and kobolds. They don't like nobody. Like, screw it. Double negative for the win there. They loathe the more handsome races such as humans, elves, dwarves, and gnomes, and fairy folk. Of course, these races all hold a special place on the ogre's menu, as these vicious predators love raw humanoid flesh. Well, that sounds yummy. A hereditary link between humans and ogres. Most humans deny any relation to these horrible giants, and many hate them with a vengeance. Likewise, ogres have no love for little humans or their elven buddies. This means drunken warriors, bullies, and racially prejudiced will frequently harass, challenge, and attack ogres with little or no provocation. Likewise, many humans, elves, and dwarf towns and people won't serve ogres, as we don't serve their kind here. On the other hand, goblins, orcs, kobolds, and other non-humans like ogres and treat them well, while humans and elves are treated like dirt. Okay. Again, there's a lot more to them, but let's go look at their stats. Scroll down. All right. Get you an idea of what's going on here. Ogres. Typically anarchist or evil. Now, anarchist is on the evil end of selfish. So there are three groupings of alignments: good, selfish, and evil. And anarchist is on the, well, I'll call it the evil side. That's my way of saying it. The evil side of selfish. But most player characters are likely to be unprincipled, anarchist, aberrant, or even good. I like the unprincipled alignment. It is one of my two favorites. I like scrupulous and unprincipled. I think they're, for me, the easiest to play. They're the most fun to play. So I tend to play those most. So you know what? I could be an unprincipled ogre and go with that. All right. IQ 3d6. So they're just as smart as humans. They're not dumb. Me ogre monster. No, they're actually just as smart as humans. Mental endurance also 3d6. So they're just as I guess gullible is the word I'm going to use here. They have the same willpower as humans. Mental affinity is only 2d6. That means they're not very charming, not very trusting. So, but they are ogres, and that could be why. Physical strength 4d6 plus 4. Wow. Okay, so he's going to put a clobbering on you. Physical prowess 3d6. These guys aren't tripping over their own 2 feet. 3d6, that's same as a human for physical prowess. Physical endurance 3d6 plus 6. So they can take a beating. That's what happens when you're big. Physical beauty is 2d6. So you know what? They're not the most beautiful things out there, but they're not fugly. They're just gross. And speed is 3d6, the same as humans. They start with 20 extra SDC. So it'd be whatever the OCC is plus 20 more. All right, and if you've played Dungeons and Dragons, just think of damage generally being kind of the same caliber. I think maybe in Palladium it might be a touch more. That's arguable, but it's still your typical D6s, D8s, 2d4 type stuff. And then that's about it that I want to look at here. Other notes: worship evil gods. Do we care about any of this stuff? Don't work well in large groups. Very competitive. Obviously, you're not going to want your player character to necessarily be like that, but there can definitely be hints of that. It depends on your table. I don't like player character fighting. I know we just had a live stream on Friday where we were talking about that. And some people say, hey, it's great. I don't. I got over that when, probably in the 90s, maybe the early 2000s, where I just don't want to deal with that anymore. But that doesn't mean they can't be argumentative. That doesn't mean that they can't throw little temper tantrums or something like that. I just don't want players going, cutthroat, I guess you'd say. So, all right. That's all we're going to look at for the races. As you can see, there are a lot more. It's going to be up to your game master to determine what races are allowed depending on where you are and what you're doing. But the races are incredibly diverse, very interesting. They have one of the things I think Palladium does well in regard to this is they don't make them so alien that they're either unplayable or just so diverse, or sorry, diametric. That's opposed. Where not only do you just don't want to have an ogre and a human in a group. Some games do that. My most notable one is Battlelords of the 23rd Century. You cannot have an Eridani and a Fentari in the same group and call yourself a good role player. Okay, here they've got the issues, but the book even explains ways to work around that without cheapening the race. So there we go. I know there's been a lot of chat already. Let me take a look at some of this, and then we'll move on to the second segment. All right, where are we here? Roll up. OG Star Trek is a perfect example of how races should be. All Vulcans act the same. Yes, I agree. All Romulans act the same. All Klingons act the same. They have different personalities, but they have these biogenetic traits that are part of the race. So, I should put that on the screen for people that watch later. There we go. I agree with that completely. I have a video about that. It's a pretty old video now. It's the sound quality on it isn't the greatest. I've debated redoing it, but it's still good. Where I talk about racism and speciesism in games, and I think it's poignant that why can't my orc be good? Because the other orcs would kill him. And I'm not talking Palladium. I'm talking like in a D&D context. That's why. Pretty much that simple. You're weak. You're weak. You can either be a slave or dead. You figure it out. The greatest thing from the Elf Dwarf War, greatest room weapons. Yep, magical nukes. I don't have time to read every comment here. I'm going to scroll through them and see. If you have physical endurance of 3, again, Walter, what did I say? I said there are some small caveats to that, but generally speaking, if you have a 3 or 15, it's the same. I mean, you can argue strength, you can argue speed as well, but it's not going to change your SDC. So it's going to change your hit points, not your SDC. That's all right. Other comments. What kind of person is going to attack an ogre? A very drunk one, or a very angry one. So, all right, let's find out what I'm talking about next. All right, next we're going to talk about occupational character classes. So in Palladium Fantasy, you don't start necessarily as a farmhand with a dream. Theoretically, you could. There actually are character classes in this book. The Squire, the Scholar, and I think one is called the Farmhand or something like that. We can, if we have time, we can take a look at that. But those are absolutely optional, and I think they're even identified as optional character classes. You start as a professional. The occupational character class, or OCC, system front loads your character, meaning a level 1 mercenary or priest is already competent, if not an expert, in his field with a robust suite of skills and equipment. This design philosophy means that low attribute scores won't cripple your character. And as I already said, in fact, for most attributes, a score of 3 and a score of 15 function exactly the same. Because most of your power comes from your training and your OCC skills and bonuses rather than just lucky die rolls. During character creation, you can play a low agility knight or a dim-witted squire and still be a viable and even powerful character from day one. That's that whole thing. Work with your strengths and cover up your weaknesses. All right, so let's take a look at the OCC options we have here. Once again, got to look at the index, find out what page we're on. Combat roles. It's got to be before that, right? Alignment, insanity, experience points, character background. Birth order, weight, height. Don't care about all that. I thought the OCCs were first. Am I wrong? I'm wrong. Well, there's optional OCC. Okay, so they start down here. Men of Arms, Clergy, Cleric characters. All right, 62. There's probably more like 64. Clergy. So you have the Priest of Light. This is one I complain about a lot, but I'm in the minority. I'm just going to be upfront about that because this is supposed to be a video kind of promoting and saying, hey, this is your go-to game. If you come from Dungeons and Dragons and you're like, you expect the cleric or the clergy, Priest of Light in this case, to be the same, you're going to be disappointed. However, it absolutely has an amazing role in the game. And more things come as like internal special powers, just things you can do when you want to do them, than worrying about spell slots and whatnot. So there really is a trade-off. I really feel that my issue with the Priest of Light, because I don't have an issue with the Priest of Dark, is the fact that I'm expecting a D&D cleric and it is not that. So don't come in expecting that. Expect something more priestly, I guess is the easiest way to say it, okay? All right. All right, so Biocato, the thing is while that is the way and to be fair, I don't like that that's how Palladium describes it. But when you look at it in game mechanics, you don't get your plus bonus to your intelligence until you hit that 16, right? And there is no negative. Now, one could add that to the game, but it doesn't come in the core game. So, I like I said, I would rather just look at higher intelligence as higher intelligence. I don't like it because I've literally in the 90s gotten into arguments with folks over, well, somebody with 150 IQ should be able to. Well, it's a game, guys. It's a game. So, but it does give a good rough idea in my mind. And yes, I want to be very clear. Palladium does say for every point in IQ, you effectively have 10 points of real world IQ. Okay. But I don't like that analogy. I think it lends to too many people crying and arguing over what somebody with my IQ is actually 187. So really is it? So again, scrolling through here, the write-ups for these classes, look at all this. Look at all these pages of write-ups. You're like, don't be intimidated though. Don't be intimidated. First of all, you probably write a lot of this down. Secondly, you always have access to a book. And most of this stuff just makes sense. Talks about spell casting. It talks about, and we're going to talk about magic later. It talks about your healing touch right there. I know I'm not zoomed in close enough for you to see. It doesn't matter at this point. We're not going to dive into the Priest of Light. Then there's the Priest of Darkness. Now, this one might not be for every table because this is an evil one, right? It's going to be your meanie face. The Warrior Monk. It's kind of your fighting priest. The Druid. Can't have a game without a druid, right? Okay, that's more druid stuff. 5 laws. Powers that it gets throughout the. What was I gonna pick? I didn't even think. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I knew what I was gonna pick. Okay, so then we have the Men of Arms, and these are going to be your various fighting professions. It says mercenary and warrior OCC. I could have. Oh, mercenary warrior. That's what it is. I thought it was trying to say too. There's the mercenary, so you can play as a mercenary. Like, you know what? You get paid. Why is it every time I see this image? Where's CPK? I think he'd agree with me. CPK Ply, if you watch this video, tell me this doesn't look like a ram python. Every time I see this, this is a ram python. If people out there are like, what's a ram python? Well, that'll be my second reference to Battle Lords of the 20th century right there. All right. And so notice only a couple pages on this. There isn't so much you have to know in order to club people with an axe, but you do get some things that you do. Soldier OCC. All right. Kind of looks like the honorable hero there. The Longbowman OCC. This is one I've played. In fact, I played it in my most recent campaign. I love it. I love the Longbowman because he's not gimped at short range if you don't want him to be. All right. Is this a ranger? No, we'll get to that in a moment. But nobody uses a bow as good as this guy. Nobody, or as well. This is the epitome. If you want to be the long-range sniper, this is your guy right here. But you can also take hand-to-hand martial arts and, kick rump, up close if you really want to. So you got the knight. By the way, folks, I know some of the chat is just for you guys. Some of it is for me. I will read the chat at the end of the segment like I did last time so that I can just keep kind of going through this. But hold on to those questions. And if you really want to get my attention, of course, I will read every super chat. So, and then you've got horseman, and there are horsemanship skills that we will talk about in the next segment. Code of Chivalry, the Paladin. I wasn't thinking about covering this one, but maybe we will. Maybe we'll see. We'll look at this and we'll see if this Paladin is different than a D&D Paladin. Mind you, I'm old school when it comes to D&D, so I don't accept this whole Paladin concept like, I don't have to have a god, I can just have my own fate. Nope. You have to have a god. All right, and you have to be lawful good. Now, let's see what it says for Palladium, though, which is a different game system. Most Paladins are the embodiment of knighthood. All right. They're supposed, nice italics there, I love it. They're supposed to represent the highest values of honor, nobility, and chivalric behavior. The ultimate knight. They are the greatest fighting men alive, trained to be the very quickest and deadliest of all warriors. Paladins are fighting machines skilled in several weapons and martial art combat, as well as being exquisite equestrians. Like knights, they're often of noble birth and usually highly educated, although some are born from more humble beginnings. All right, it goes into more there. It's got paladins and armor, the same as knight. Special paladin training and mastery, way of the horse, horsemanship paladin. So you get a special skill under the skill tree called horsemanship paladin. That's nice. So we'll see if that does differently. Way of the lance, the paladin is skilled in the use of lance as a weapon in combat and for tournaments. Character gets the equivalent of weapon proficiency lance with the following ability bonuses. The roll of a natural 19 or 20, that's an unmodified die roll, means the lance strikes, inflicts triple damage. Ouch. Ouch. Because I think a normal charge is already double damage, right? So if I'm remembering the rules correctly. So that's triple damage. That's a big ouchie. The player must announce his character's intentions, whether he intends to inflict damage or unseat his opponent. Oh, I skipped the unseating the opponent part, but you get that as well. I know I'm flying through this. The idea is for folks that haven't played this in a long time or have never played this or are looking for another game just to kind of see what's in here. We'll do deeper dives later if, with enough requests, especially, do the business grift here, especially when they come, with super thanks and super chats and, Ko-Fi donations and so forth. We definitely take those at higher value. So if there's something you really want covered, we can do it. The Paladin's Demon Death Blow. Wow. The warrior can focus his inner spirit to attack demons, dragons, elementals, and other supernatural beings and creatures of magic. By the way, supernatural being is a very particular term in Palladium. This is a lot of things that you can do this to. Okay? Now, they're all going to be really tough, but this is a lot of things you can do this to. Demons, dragons, elementals, and other supernatural beings and creatures of magic. Okay. When used against supernatural opponents, the attack automatically penetrates the creature's natural armor rating. Now, I wasn't planning on talking about armor rating today, but armor rating basically for Dungeons & Dragons purposes is a higher armor class. It works a little differently, but conceptually, think of it as a higher armor class because Palladium has a static number to hit. Think of that being like, well, that number's no longer static. Now you got to roll a higher one in order to hurt him. Otherwise, his armor takes it. So, crazy. And inflicts full damage in rifts. Okay, we're not talking about rifts and so forth, so let's move on. The character can inflict damage with a punch, kick, handheld weapon like a sword, axe, spear, club, etc., and does full damage plus physical strength bonus, even if the creature is usually impervious to normal weapons. You are your own little walking magic weapon factory. Little murder machine. Against supernatural creatures. Creatures impervious to normal weapons and which are only affected by magic or magic weapons will suffer half damage from the Paladin's death blow. Only half? Full damage if he's using a magic or holy weapon. So, if a creature can only be affected by magic, you still do half damage to it. Okay, that's nuts. Full damage if he's using, I got that. Even vampires and other creatures only affected by silver will suffer half damage from this special attack. This attack is so devastating to the creature's body that it cannot bioregenerate injury from the demon's death blow for a D4 hours. This means you can whittle it down, and it's not just going to go, that was a neat trick. Nope. Okay, but there are limitations that come with this. What are those limitations? Condition being limited to the above, paladins and monk OCC. So apparently the monk gets this as well. The character must be pure spirit and intent. This means there can be no possibility of regret when this spiritual inner strength is used. It cannot be used in anger, fear, or for revenge, even if the character wants to. So you got to be all Jedi about this. There you go. There's the drawback. But that's what gives character classes like the paladin, the monk, the knight, whatever, their own special. What's the difference between a paladin and a knight? Well, this guy gets some cool powers and you get some cool land. Well, maybe, but so they have different influences, different ways of manipulating the powers, right? So, and this one has to follow, I think, even a stricter code than the knights. Counts as 2 melee attacks, limited to supernatural beings and creatures of magic. Oh no. The demon is not applicable against body armor, inanimate structures, ordinary human beings, or any mortal SDC. So basically, again, it's just clarifying there. This rule isn't to confuse you. It's just clarifying supernatural, yes, not supernatural, no. The demon death blow is not applicable to the bow and arrow or projectile weapons. Good, because otherwise that'd be stronger than the longbowman and I would cry. And here you go. The demon blow draws on 3d6 of the character's PPE, and we're going to talk more about PPE in the magic section, but it stands for potential psychic energy. Don't get all butthurt over the fact that, wait a minute, but that's psychic energy, not magic. Nope. Potential psychic energy is for magic, unless they ever change that. But it'll take 3d6 of it to use that power. How many do you have to start? I don't know. Let's find out. Where is it? And I know I'm really zooming through a lot of this stuff and not telling you everything about the class. That's not the point. Where the heck does it talk about starting PPE? Lance, for this. OCC skills. Armor, weapons, and money. Okay, I guess it's whatever the base is, and somebody in chat can tell me what the base is. I don't know off the top of my head what base PPE is. If it doesn't tell, then there is a base number for it. I just don't remember what it is. And I will show this as well, because classes will give you bonuses. Like a paladin gets +2 to initiative. That's crazy. Well, it's only 10% because you roll a d20. I will take any bonus you want to give me on initiative, especially when it comes to abilities that you get through the different combat trainings, like body block tackle or throwing somebody and causing him to lose his initiative, et cetera, et cetera. Going first is amazing in this game. So +1 to pull punch, which means you can control your attacks a little better. Oh, here it is right here. 2d6. There, it's right there. 2d6 PPE. Oh, that's funny. Oh, plus. So whatever the base is, plus 2d6 PPE. So again, anybody in chat wants to know what that base is, and we'll do that on there. So we can put that together, but it's plus. So whatever the base is, plus 2d6 and +1 to save versus horror factor at levels 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pretty much every level except for 2 and 7. And what horror factor is, basically think of it as a quick fear check, like, oh my God, or almost like a surprise roll. It's like a combination fear check surprise roll wrapped into one. Okay, so there you go. And there's a lot more in here. We're going to talk about skills in the next segment. But to look here, maybe I will look at this just to give an idea. OCC skills. So what OCC skills means, this is what you must take. It just comes with the class. You will take it. All right. Why every paladin has this? Because it fits the definition of paladin. And BioKidder says the base is generally 3d6. So you probably get 1 or 2 uses of that ability per day, but that's still pretty awesome, of that demon smiting ability, right? So you get dance. Why? Because they're social creatures. They have etiquette. They're snooty. They're the high society, right? So they're gonna have dance. This plus 10% is important. When we talk about skills and you start looking, oh my God, those skill rolls are horrible. 30% chance, that's it. Well, remember, you're going to have various things that give you bonuses to them. Also, without diving into what it means to be a good game master, you only roll skill checks when the outcome is uncertain and that uncertainty matters. Like that success or failure really does matter. Ooh, is there going to be a problem if he fails? Is there going to be a problem if he succeeds? If he's just doing a standard ballroom dance and doesn't want to trip over his own 2 feet and let people know that he's part of high society without currying any favor or anything, just give it to him. There's no role for that. Or if the character or the player really wants to roll, no, I want to see if I roll exceptionally well. Great. Say that a failure is a piss poor dance and a success is an amazing, like, wow, people are like, okay, again, but not currying any favor. If you want a game benefit, then you should probably roll for real. But the idea there is he's going to start off being a little more cultured. Heraldry, well, he's going to know, he's got that knight in him. So he's going to know how to read the banners, the signs, the military ranks, and so forth. Horsemanship Paladin, which we probably won't look at, but it's a special horsemanship that allows him to do more things on his horse than the normal schmuck can. Land navigation, because, he rides out in service. So he's going to know how to read the signs and get to where he wants to go. Languages, native tongue at 98%. That's everybody. Plus 2 of choice. Again, he's cultured with a plus 15% to each. So again, if you're looking at that going, oh, it's 45%. It's actually 60 for this guy at first level. And you're only rolling when it really matters. And then literacy gets 1 language of choice, usually native or elf. Now, by the way, languages up here, this is speaking. This is reading, writing. Math basic, he can count the coins for you. There you go. Weapon proficiency lance. We already talked about a special ability gets that. Weapon proficiency shield, which comes with some fun things you can do with that. And 3 other weapon proficiencies of your choice. It could be sword and mace, and you could take bow, I suppose, unless there's a prohibition against it that I didn't see. So you can be a well-rounded fighter. Hand-to-hand martial arts can be changed to hand-to-hand assassin if evil at no cost. So apparently paladins can be evil. Is that like the anti-paladin thing? Do they talk about alignments? Paladin can be any alignment, good, selfish, or evil. However, most paladins are principled. Okay, well, personally, I don't really like that, but I'm not going to complain about the paladin in this game. And for you 5e players, you're probably like, well, that's what our paladins are like. They just call them different things, champions and protectors and blah, blah. Okay, there you go. So you can do that here as well. Now, what are OCC-related skills? I feel like I'm diving into the next segment a little too much, but oh well, we're here. OCC-related skills are skills that you select now. Those are the ones we were just reading are skills that you will have because you're a paladin. Now we're reading the skills you choose. This is what makes your paladin different than my paladin. One of the ways it makes your paladin different than my paladin, different than who's the last person to say something in chat. Okay, polyrobotics. Who says that, the base is found on all races. Paladin. So this is where you start diversifying your character. You can take any communication skills. We'll probably look at some of those in the next section. You can no domestic skills because you're up here, man. You're up here. You don't do that domestic stuff. I wonder if you can take it as a secondary skill. You can probably take them as secondary skills, but you're not going to get that in your paladin training because you have people serving you. Espionage, any espionage. That's a little interesting. I wouldn't have expected that, but you can take espionage skills. Again, Palladium people probably know what all those skills are. Those who are not playing Palladium are like, what? A paladin doing espionage skills? Well, we'll take a look at them. Maybe. I don't want to lie. Horsemanship, exotic only. Oh no, only exotic. That's if you want it. So basically, you're going to have this or you're going to have none. Remember, you get to choose this. You don't have to have it. Medical, first aid only. You're not a doctor. You know how to patch people up from, quick battle wounds as best you can, but you got to get them back to the Diabolist or the psychic healer or whatever, the priest. Military, any, makes sense. Physical, any except acrobatics. Now, again, the Palladium folks know this, but you might be like, okay, whatever. You could still have gymnastics. Didn't say you can't take that. Just said no acrobatics. And there are both. There's acrobatics and there's gymnastics. Rogue. Any, but only if evil. Okay. Science, math only. Scholar, technical, any. These are kind of things that you just kind of learn. Things like writing, photography. Okay, they wouldn't have photography in fantasy. I'm trying to think what the fantasy ones might be. Maybe we'll look at that in a little bit. And weapon proficiencies, any. That's right. You can spend these points. Now, I didn't talk about how many you get. I should probably scroll up here and do that. It's like 2 other skills from communication skill category. Oh. So you have to take 2 from communications. Got it? And 5 others, so it's at level 1. So you're going to get 2 directly from here, and then 5 from anywhere else. Well, I shouldn't even say anywhere, from any of these. You could actually take 7 communication skills if there are 7 communication skills. That's what this means. So now, let's say you go military and physical, and I go, what's one where I can take a lot from? I go communication and technical. I was probably raised a little more erudite, where you're raised a little more physical. And maybe that shows up in our attributes as well, because, I've got a higher intelligence and mental affinity, and you've got a higher physical strength, physical endurance, and physical prowess. That you absolutely could do that. And what we haven't looked at, and we'll probably kind of really trapping in the next section a lot in this one, a lot of physical skills will raise your attributes. Take weightlifting. There you go. There's another couple. Is it +2 to strength and +10 SDC or something like that? Again, I forget. It's been a while. And to be fair, fantasy might do it different than After the Bomb, which does it a little different than Rifts and so forth. So, but it's generally the same. Then on top of all that, you get secondary skills. Now, secondary skills are not considered professional level. These are considered hobbies, but things you can do. And you get just like 4 secondary skills from the previous list. So it's going to be from this list right here, from your OCC related. You can take 4 secondary skills and 2 more at levels 5, 10, and 15. There you go. Again, we can look at it. You start with some armor, pretty good armor. AR-14. In case we don't talk about it in the combat section, here's what this AR-14 SDC 44 means. Normally, you need to have a 5 or greater to hit you. If I roll a 5 on a D20, I hit you. That's just the way the game works. We'll talk about reacting to that and so forth later, but that's the way it works. This means I have to roll a 15 or higher. And I'm glad I got that right, because well, I'm not going to dive into it. It means a 14, a 5 to 14 means I hit the armor. 1 to 4 is still a miss. 5 to 14 means I hit the armor, and the damage comes off of this number. Once this number is gone, or if you roll higher than a 14, then it goes to the character, directly to the character. It's that simple. It's that simple. Boom. And if it sounds complicated, oh my God, a lot of steps there, you play it once, you'll get it. Oh, okay, that makes perfect sense. Got it. So I don't know. I don't know fantasy as well as I know some others, and I think that SDC seems a little low to me. But again, I might be comparing it to the wrong thing. But that 14 is amazing. Oh, I'm sorry. It says it right there. See, this is what happens when I don't read when I'm trying to speed through. That's a suit of chainmail, right? Would you scroll, please? Or you can have scale mail with 75 SDC and an AR of 15. It means a 5 to a 15 hits the armor, and a 16 to 20. It's a 25% chance to actually hit the person, or harm the person, I should say. It's not necessarily hit the person, but harm the person. And a 55% chance to hit the armor, with a 20% chance to miss completely. And then it comes off the 75 SDC first. So imagine this. You're doing, we'll say you're doing a D8. You got a pretty decent weapon. You're doing a D8, and you roll a 5 on that thing. Plunk. Okay, 5 off his SDC. That armor's going to hold for a bit. And you start with this as a paladin. All right, that's a longer look at the paladin than I wanted to do, but it kind of puts out there what OCCs look like. I was thinking about covering a second one, but I'm not going to do that now. But I will scroll through. There's a ranger. There's a thief. There's an assassin. Not a fan of assassins in games personally, but I know a lot of people like them. Here are the optional ones. They're optional because they don't hold the same power as the standard ones. That doesn't mean they're unplayable. You're probably going to be more of a sidekick, or you're going to be in a lower combat campaign. But I think they're fun, but they are optional because they probably don't fit most, right? So there's a merchant, the noble, the scholar. We actually had a scholar in my most recent game. And the squire. This would be really great if there's a paladin or a knight in the group to also have a squire. You could have a lot of fun with that. Then you have the peasant or farmer. Vagabond, I like that because I keep thinking Rifts when it comes to that. And this is just the dude who just like, you know what? This sucks. I don't like planting beans anymore. I'm out. Then you have magic. We're going to talk about magic later, but you got the wizard. I hope you guys can read that. I'm not scrolling in. The warlock, which is, think of as an elementalist. Scrolling down. The witch, which, if you ask Heathen Dog, shouldn't be played. I half agree with them. I half don't. I think it just depends on the table, but it's a decidedly evil class. The Diabolist, which I think gets a lot less love than it should. I have a video on the Diabolist. I have a video on it. Heathen Dog, for example, thinks it should be NPC only. I say boo to that. I think it's a perfectly viable character class, depending on the campaign. This is the type of character class that you need to prepare. That's his whole job. His whole job is preparation. If he can't prepare, he's not going to be doing his thing. If he can prepare, he's great. He's absolutely amazing. So it just really depends. I love him. Ward magic. Oh, that's sorry. It was highlighted like it was a headline. So the ward magic is more about what Diablos do. I've always liked those little rune symbols there. I actually used them in a game in the 90s for a whole different game system. I stole these and used them for a whole different game system. Talked about the words of power. I actually make you say them at the table. You're mean. I know. Come on, there's Summoner OCC. Another one Heathen Dog doesn't really like because at some point you're probably going to lose control of the creature and you might have to kill it. The chance it's going to happen depending on what you do, but there are mitigating things. There's definitely things you can do to mitigate the problem with that. And look at all these summoning circles. I think these circles look cool. I used to study back in the 90s occult, like real world occult. I'm not saying it's real or fake or whatever. I'm just saying real world occult. And it very much reminds me of like the Key of Solomon type stuff. So, oops. Where are the psychics? I want to get to the psychics. Yeah, if you're a summoner, you're gonna have a lot of things that you do. I think the Diablos gets all those too. And then psionic powers. Don't care about the powers right now. Psychic sensitive. This is somebody with a I guess lower level of psionic power, but still has it. Psi healer. Fantastic healer. He goes, whoo, and you're healed. You almost think of this as the cleric over the priest of light. If you're coming from Dungeons and Dragons. Psi mystic. I actually don't know about the Psi mystic. What is this? This is the one that is half magic, half psychic. I say stay in your lane, but you know what? It's in the book. Either be magic or be psychic. Wait, is that the mind mage? Hold on. Yeah, I thought the mind mage was the mind mage most powerful of all the psychic character classes, although these people can cast no spell. Okay, I was wrong. I thought the mind mage was the one that's half and half. It's not. Mind mages draw their spectacular abilities from themselves. They need no spells, no power words to invoke. So if you just want to be powder, I mean, you want to be the strongest psychic in the game, you go with the mind mage. Although the psychic healer is going to have more healing abilities, so it just depends what you want. There you go. I think that's all of the classes. Yeah, these are all powers right now. So there you go. Tons of classes, but you're like, but Max, that isn't enough. I want even more classes. Well, then I'll tell you, get the world books. That's when you get into the expansion of the world. If you can't find something to play out of being a psychic, out of being a man at arms, long range, short range, knight, mercenary, I forget all the whatever else. There's soldier. Wow, I don't know what to tell you. You can be a wizard, you can be a Diablos, you can be an elementalist. They call them warlocks in this game. It's all these different things that you can do. It covers the gamut. But you forgot thief. I know thieves and assassins too. You get the idea. The other world books will have even more. So that's generally it for the occupational character classes. So if you're looking for something fun, I miss my Dungeons & Dragons 5e subclasses. No, you don't. Because through the character creation process, you kind of make your own subclass with those OCC related skills and with the secondary skills. Again, and if that's just not working out for you, there are Rifter. It's like a magazine like Dragon or Dungeon magazine that Palladium puts out with lots more ideas. They've got the world books that come with these things. You know, was it Balgor Wastelands? Again, I'm not a big fantasy guy, so I don't know it as much as others. But you got like, the Tamiro, whatever. Well, Yinslath Jungles, because they're working on that one now, so I remember that one. You've got Eastern Empires, Western, whatever. You got the Northern kingdoms where the Wolfen exist. Like, there's just a lot of different areas that you can explore and a lot of different creatures that you can come across and find. And a lot of them can be player characters as well. So you'll definitely find more. So let's take a look at what folks were saying in chat. Just look like any super chats popped in. So let me see where we ended. Yeah, that seems like another conversation. Haven't played Palladium since the late 80s. Let's see this. Haven't played Palladium since the late 80s. I had the TMNT RPG. Yes. See, now we're talking. We're on the same wavelength for that one. That's where I'm a TMNT after the bomb guy. That's where I've got most of my information. So love that. And a friend had Beyond the Supernatural. Good times. Pandaverse RPGs from Palladium still integrate. Yes, yes. They can. There's they're the conversion books. You know, they're the Rifts conversion books that will talk about how to bring them from MDC worlds. Mostly into Rifts. I don't think you'd be using a conversion book necessarily to bring into Robotech, but I suppose you could. Yeah, I mean they can integrate however you want, and we've actually got videos on that. I think Heathen Dog did one recently where we call like stitching together Palladium worlds, and he talks about that specifically on how to do it various different ways. But yeah, you can. I mean, like a lot of people. Now, I don't do this because I did it a bunch of times and just never worked out the way I wanted. I'm considered crazy in this regard, but a lot of people put together Ninjas and Super Spies and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I get it. I really do. I get it. I just didn't work out the way I would want it to, so I just don't go for it. I don't need all those martial arts. Dude, just learn ninjutsu or take a normal hand-to-hand skill and let's just get to the game. But that's my taste. Absolutely, you can put those together. You could take stuff out of Ninjas and Super Spies. You probably have to do a little bit of kajiggering for it, but you can take something out of Ninja Super Spies and put it in this game as well if you want to add to the Fighting Monk, right? So but yeah, it's good to hear. The fact that you haven't played since the 80s and you're here now, that's awesome. And the whole point of this video is to say, hey, this is out there. And I know it's going to be long and some people are going to be able to watch like 5 minutes of it or whatever. It's what happens on YouTube, right? But I'm not trying to entice the Palladium players. They know all this stuff. They're probably yelling at me to dive deeper. Go tell them more about this. I'm just trying to give an overview of all the different, what I consider the 8 pillars of why, if you're moving away from D&D or some other game, this is the one you want to at least check out. If not, make it your new game du jour. So we've talked about races. Look at all the options you have there. And you don't have to use them. Kevin Simbita will never go, no, you have to use all my races. He'll say, hey, use the ones that work for you. And don't use the ones that don't work for you. Same with the OCCs. You want to tweak an OCC? I like the Paladin, but I want it to work differently. Great. Make it work differently. Do your thing. Do your thing at your table. Might get some Palladium purists that cry, but do your thing at your table. So that's this game is as I don't know if modular is the word I want to use, is as flexible as you allow it to be. If you want to say, nope, we're not going to be flexible, then it's not. If you want to say, I want to do something a little different here, then you do. And for the most part, Palladium folks won't argue with you. What they might argue is like, hey, that's not the rules. And you say, you're right, that's not the rules. That's what I do at my table. And they go, oh, okay. So, all right. Let's see. Generally based 3d6, though it changes by race. Okay, we kind of talked about it. Maybe I'll mention that again when it gets into we get in the magic section. Then the unbalanced mess, that's the mind mage. I don't know. Again, I don't play psychics, and I have a big blurb about that when we get to the psychic section. I personally, please don't say, oh, well, this game sucks because I want to be a psychic. No. You're going to love the psychic when I get there. I personally don't like psionics in any game ever. Can't you name a game that's got psionics in it? I already nope. Ninja Super Spies Beyond the Supernatural. Yeah, you absolutely could do Ninja Super Spies and Beyond the Supernatural. Yes, you could. See. Can an RCC have an OCC? It's not clear. I'm the wrong person to ask that. And pardon me for not giving you the answer, especially since you super chatted. Oh, okay. Well, Polyrobotics, and I know he knows. And he says yes. Now, William. Wait, hold on. He was answering somebody else. Sorry. That was We'll get to that in a future segment here. So I'll talk about it in a little bit, but yes and no. That's my answer. Yes and no. The reason why I'm not the person to answer this is because my games are After the Bomb and TMNT. In the past Robotech, and I've done a bunch of Heroes Unlimited. None of those games have OCCs and RCCs. So I'm really not good at answering that kind of question. I'm not a Rifts guy. And to be fair, when it comes to Palladium Fantasy, I've played it, but I haven't dove into it from the point of a game master. I've just played it a bunch of times, and I never do things like that personally. I just don't. I'm very cookie cutter, and then I make the character interesting through my personality in the character and from my actions as a character. So, but I know people have that question because it comes up a lot. Just have to try to remember. I think Palladium is RCC is your species and list. What? Oh, and okay. So apparently, RCC is your species, and will list what OCCs are not available if you can't do something. Okay, that's good to know. And Malachi says some limit. So there we go. All right, let's move on. What is our next topic? Oh, next topic, which I think I covered half of already, is skills. Now we looked over how the skills are presented for the character, right? Well, now we're going to look a little bit. We're not going to look at every skill. Oh my God, we're not going to look at every skill. But skills in Palladium Fantasy act like the bridge between a class-based identity and skill-based freedom. And this is an area I think many players miss, but where I think the game quietly flexes. I said this to Kevin yesterday. I don't know if it's on the stream or off the stream, but I said it to Kevin yesterday. And it's something I've been saying for a long time. A few games out there have tried to be this hybrid skill-based orc and class-based type thing. I know some people disagree with me on this, but I think that D&D 3rd edition really tried to be kind of a hybrid between skill-based and class-based with its Lego classes, prestige, blah, 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 and its list of 30 skills, whatever. It failed miserably for my taste, but I think Palladium it's a class-based game, but with enough skills and unique skills to make it skill-based in feel. All right. Now, a pure skill-based player is not going to agree with me. I get it. But this is my take. I think it is the best hybrid of class-based and skill-based ever presented in a game. And I'm not saying this. I know we get called Palladium shills all the time. Go watch our videos and see how many times we've kind of punched Palladium in the neck a little bit. Okay. We're not just shills for them. So when I say I love the alignment system, when I say I love the experience point system, when I say I love the way the hybrid class and skill base, you should actually take that as like, oh wow, okay, if they love it, he means it, because we have a lot of things that we've complained about as well. We're not just shills here, even though we love Kevin and Sean and Jeremy. We try to be as honest as we can from our perspective, right? So yes, if you pick an OCC, it front loads your competence and your role. And we saw that previously with that paladin, right? But the skill system turns that role into a distinct professional instead of just a cookie cutter template. Two fighters can share the same OCC and play like completely different people because one invests into wilderness survival, tracking, and scouting, while the other builds into soldiering, horsemanship, and intimidation. Is that a skill? I think it is. The class tells you what the character is, and the skills prove who he is, session after session, until your table stops seeing a class and starts seeing a living, capable adventurer with a personality, background, and capability all his own. So let's take a look at the skill list here. All right, what page are we going to be on with that? I know we kind of touched on a little bit. All right, where do we got skills? These books are always fun in the layout. I know somebody's going to write that in the comments somewhere. I like Palladium, but the layout is horrible. You know what? If you actually read it from beginning to end at least once, you'll know where everything is. Oh, yeah, it is. So here we go. Skill descriptions right there. And does every player have to do that? Not necessarily, but every game master should. I do that with every game that I run. I read the book, the whole thing, sometimes twice. Plus 49. Oops, I just mashed in all types of numbers there. All right, so here's a skill list. So for example, we talked about communication, right, in that last segment with we look at the paladin. Well, here are the different communication skills. Cryptography. Oh, it's communications and performing arts. Oh, interesting. I was not expecting that. So this is a bit different than you'll find in the other Palladium games, but you have cryptography, dance, and I guess that's a form. Okay, I can say it's a form of social communication. That's fair. Communication nowadays probably thinks more like using your radios and your smartphones and so on and so forth. But communication back then, you're communicating your social status, you're communicating your intent, you're communicating orders. So yeah, I get it. You got language, literacy, mime. That's always a favorite of mine. Why the hell is there mime? But in some communities, that actually matters. You're going to be running a very particular campaign to be using, the heck out of that skill. But It's there in case you need it. Oh, another complaint that comes from Palladium is like, oh my God, if you actually get the whole skill list, there are like over 1,000 skills. Oh, and you only get 15 of them. Stop. Stop right there. That's a very bad analysis. Let me tell you why. Number one, a lot of skills come from particular world books for the purposes of that setting. Okay? That setting needs, so let's use mime. Let's just pretend we're in, I don't know, 19th century France. I'm making stuff up now. But we're in 19th century France, and mime is a form of communication that the snooty snoots use, okay? Well, maybe you want to be part of that social status, so you learned mime. And everybody's like, even though everybody hates it, they're like, oh, look at you, oh, yes, yes. And all the poor people are like, oh, super mime, you know, with a caste structure. My point being is, not every skill is going to be useful in every campaign. Sometimes skills are really meant for NPCs. They're really not made for player characters, but in order to round out this NPC better, in order to say, you know what, this NPC knows how to make weapons, but doesn't know how to make armor. He specializes, no, go one step further. He specializes in knife making, but he's really not good at making longer weapons, swords, and so on and so forth. They crack sometimes, they break. So he's got weaponsmith knife, where really it's just weaponsmith or blacksmithing. It's up to the game master to determine how pedantic he wants the skill list to be. There is never a problem with a character saying, I'd really love to have the skill pickleball. What? No. For my character, You know what? Sure, we'll put that as a secondary skill for you or something like that. There's nothing wrong with it. At the same time, game masters are more than welcome to say, look, no. You've got athletics. You can just say it's pickleball, okay? Let's move on. That is up to you. Don't look at the skill list as like this analysis paralysis, like, oh my God, and then I got this book and I got this book and I got to use all these things. And this book has fishing, but this book does not. So that means I can't fish. That's not true. And I think that's one of the things, when you have a game that lasts 40 some years, it's going to be a little bloat. There's going to be a little like, we could have added that. And, I'm not going to get into all the reasons why, but there are various reasons why there aren't new printings necessarily of this, complete updates. Again, a lot of reasons that probably none of you would even care about anyway. It'd be like, it's just excuses. Yeah, but 30 excuses might become a reason finally, right? Just don't overthink it. And the reason why I'm harping on this is one of those areas of Palladium that I hear a lot, like either the skill list is too small or the skill list is too big. The skill list is just right for you to make fungible, for you to edit if you feel it's necessary. I don't. I have never had a reason why I needed to edit the skill list. But there's nothing wrong with it if you do. Don't get locked into this thing. Well, it's in the book, so there you go. I might say, look, don't take mime. Or, musical instruments are outlawed. You're not allowed to have fun, so don't take musical instrument. But my character gets it. Well, we're going to replace it with something else. You see what I'm saying? The point being is don't overthink it. Just take the skills. And if the book doesn't have, what do they have for the science? There we go. There's science, right? Anthropology, archaeology, botany, biology, astronomy, navigation. You know what they don't have? They don't have physics on here. Where's my physics and my chemistry? Oh, no physics and chemistry? Well, you can either add it, have alchemy. I wonder if alchemy is in here somewhere. You can create yourself some sort of alchemy. Or you can look at it and go, is there anything here that's close? Not really. Maybe not even botany's close. I wonder, is there something in here elsewhere? Okay, that might actually be a little oversight. I don't know. I'm only glancing, so if I miss it, I miss it. But that might be one that you just want. Oh, here we go. Biology, medical skills. You want alchemy or chemistry? Well, you can have brewing, and we'll just make it a subset of your brewing. Well, say you focus on more alchemical compounds, trying to find, the fountain of youth or the philosopher's stone, whatever. More into that than you are on brewing potions. And that's something you can work out with your game master and be like, okay, so when you're doing something more, I can't even think of a good reason because everything I get in gives a real modern science. I would just say it's brewing. Your chemistry is brewing. Where's physics? I forget what they called it. Oh, I have it written in my game that I'm writing. I think it's just called physical sciences. There's a skill called physical sciences, which is kind of like the whole Monty Python thing, right? It's like, who are you to be so knowledgeable in the ways of science? Because it was more generalized, right? I think gravity comes because God's hand reaches up and pulls everything down. That doesn't sound too scientific. Yeah, but you know what? You can't prove it wrong. So, you know, the thing is you can add that stuff or you can ignore it and move on. It doesn't matter. Don't stress. Don't stress. Don't feel you have to get it right, because I promise you right now, your table is going to play differently than my table. It's going to play differently. Who's the last person to comment in here? Devious Dave Rose table. It's okay. It's expected, and Kevin appreciates that. And if anybody tells you this is wrong because of this, that's a person without an imagination who doesn't know to go, and you know what? I think I do want to change this, or isn't willing to work with the game master. The game master isn't willing to work with him on some little tweaks that might benefit a character or benefit the campaign. So let's so we got the skill list here, right? Again, not going to look at them all. One of the things to note, I already said it before in the last section, but I'll say it again here. A lot of these skills actually increase your physical attributes. Boxing is a notoriously famous one for people to take. In fact, Sean and I, we're going to get into an argument, but he said something that, when I say Sean, I'm talking Sean Owen Robertson. He's the business partner of Kevin Simbita. He said something to me one time that just drove me crazy. He's like, well, most people take boxing anyway. And I'm thinking, not in my games. Nope. And yes, I get a lot of flack from you Palladium folks on this one. I very much limit boxing, acrobatics, and gymnastics in my games. Absolutely do. You've got to justify to me why you're, especially all three. All three, good luck. Roll one on a D100 and you might get that past me somehow. But I don't generally allow that. But I get what he's saying, is a lot of people take boxing. We're going to look at boxing. It's definitely going to be one we look at, and we'll show you why so many people take boxing. Now, this does take up a skill selection. Whether well, I don't think boxing can be a secondary skill. So it's going to take up one of your OCC-related skills. But is it worth it for you? I don't know. The other ones I want to look at real quickly is I want to show you the weapon proficiencies. These are the weapon proficiencies in the game. Obviously, we saw that the Paladin came with some, right, when we looked at that. But there are other ones that you can take. You can take a mouth weapon, and no, that is not your bad breath. That is using things like blowguns, blow darts, whatever, right? You can take staff. Pretty simple one for people to take. The typical ones are, I don't remember if archery is secondary, allowed for secondary skill. I can't remember. But blunt, chain, knife. Is that it? I think that's it. So you can have blunt, which is basically anything like a club, or you could go so specific, there we go, that's a word, as spear or staff. There we go, I meant staff. Tried to pass that one off. I failed even to myself. As weapon proficiency staff, and get the bonuses from that. And so we'll take a look at a couple of those. Other than that, we're just going to look at the spell list as we kind of scroll through it, just to get you an idea. So dance, see the domestic skill category. Of course, you got to put it in another. Okay, so dance is both communication and domestic. It's there and there. And if you can't read it because it's small, that's why I double-clicked and highlighted for you. So, okay. Well, we're not going to look at dancing. We're going to look at language. No, we're going to look at mime, because that's everybody's favorite, and you're going to love me for this one. You'll be like, yeah, thanks for looking at mime. Mime, the artful combination of two other skills, prowl and sign language, to create a form of silent entertainment. Characters who choose the mime skill must first select both prowl and sign language. Look at that. It comes with prerequisites. So if your character doesn't have prowl, or your character doesn't have a sign language, or your character doesn't have either, you cannot take mime. Uh-oh. The percentile number indicates the overall quality and acting portrayal of the mime, and it starts at 30%. And again, people like to look at those numbers and say, oh my God, that's so horrible. You know, for domestic skill, that might be kind of low, but you know, you only have room to raise, right? Number two, you can put yourself in a situation that the game master can allow you bonuses. Maybe it's a little darker outside, so little slip-ups don't matter. Maybe you're trying to, all you want is to get a laugh out of from people. So in that case, mistakes might even be beneficial for you. It depends on what it is you're trying to do. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm going to give you, that was a really good idea you had there. I'm going to give you a plus 15% to your roll. And then remember that, I don't know if it ever comes to mime. It might be in a world book somewhere, but a lot of these skills get bonuses based on the character's OCC. That's what I was thinking of. And if it says, let's go up here, because mime is communication, plus 5% to all communication skills, well, guess what mime is? So that just raised it from 30 to 35 to start right out of the gate. Booyah, there you go. And rolling percentile dice is so there's two things. So some people say that it adds extra complexity. I think that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But one of the things I love, and I mean that, I love about Palladium is, where are my percentile dice? There's one, where's the other? So I can roll, not that you can probably see them, but I can roll my percentile dice for skills. Not always, but most skills take time, right? They're not going to be one action abilities. Again, some can be, but for the most part, miming probably is going to be something you do over the course of a minute or two, depending on what it is you're trying to do. So I have a 35% chance because I just told myself I got plus 5 for all communication skills because, I don't know, I picked an OCC that does, and I rolled a 54. Ooh, I failed. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It just maybe means I didn't earn as much money that day, or I didn't convince the guy to look at me when somebody's trying to pickpocket him or whatever. Whatever the whole point of doing mime is, because I don't know what the point of mime is. I didn't succeed at that, but it isn't the end of the world right there. And I didn't do anything to really try to increase that bonus, right? But you roll a D20, and we're going to talk about combat. I think combat next. I think combat is next. So we'll talk about combat next. So when you're doing things that usually take an action, that are you versus somebody else, trying to hurt something, whatever, you roll a D20. So if you're coming from Dungeons & Dragons, booyah, D20, get your pluses and your attack bonuses and all these cool things that you're used to having, plus the whole reaction system, which I cannot wait to talk to you about. But for skills, it's just a simple percentile roll. You have a 35% chance. Unless your game master says, no, you put yourself in a great position. You have 50% chance. Or, ooh, you know what? That's going to be a little tougher now. You only got a 20% chance. And those go up, like mime, for example. It says it right here. 30 plus 5 per level. You do not get the plus 5 at level 1. That's an argument in the Palladium community, but it has been debunked many, many times. You do not get the plus 5 at level 1. It starts at 30 at level 1. Plus any bonuses you have for IQ, plus any bonuses you have from your occupational character class that might add either communication or that spell specifically. And then once you hit level 2, you get another 5% to it. At level 3, another 5%. Level 4, another 5%. And that's how these go up. And what this does, especially when you compare them to a character that gets like, hey, all these characters get plus 20% to yada yada skills. Let's just, okay, I don't remember what the number was, but it was in the pound, like plus 10% to all horsemanship skills. Well, I don't even, there's horsemanship paladin. So where's horsemanship paladin? And I'm not going to read all the stuff that horsemanship does. I had horsemanship as my archer or my bowman. That was awesome. Not paladin, of course. I couldn't take that. So you get all these abilities, plus 1 on initiative, plus 2 to roll, fall impact. All these things you get. Inflicts plus 6 damage when on horseback. That's above and beyond that other charging crap that you already got. These guys are obliterating people on horseback because that's part of their shtick. That's what they do. I don't see. Oh, horsemanship. Oh, I forgot what this is. Okay, so it's 40 plus 5. So this means it's 55 at level 1. So better than 50-50 chance. And 50% at level 1. I think one's for carrying and one's for something else. What's the first number? Looks like to ride and care for horses. The first percentile number, the character's riding ability and fundamental knowledge of feeding and caring of horses. And this, the first second percentile number is to breed them. Oh, well, there you go. Bringing a little animal husbandry going on here. Chicken, chicken, bow, wow. This is how TMNT came to be. Shut up. So here we go. So this is for riding and caring for, and this is for breeding and other, more animal husbandry type concept. So there we go. But if you're playing like I don't know what it is, I'm making up numbers, and when we look at it later, maybe like, you were wrong. I know, but I don't care. But let's say that the psychic healer gets plus 15% to first aid. Okay, well that starts him off at 45%. Not too bad. Not too bad for a first level character. Remember, first level character. I did mention earlier that characters are front loaded. But don't let these skill checks scare you. So many things. You spend a little more time because he's not bleeding out. You know, get a better percentage. Maybe you don't roll at all. Remember, only roll if the outcome is uncertain and that outcome is meaningful. That uncertainty, like, you know, I don't know if you succeeded or not. And it matters if you failed or if you succeeded. If it doesn't include those two things, if you know the person's going to succeed at some point anyway, just say it's a success. If you don't, if the outcome isn't really uncertain, don't roll. Just say you got it. Okay. Or use the roll to maybe a kind of like a level grade. Not just you got it, but you got it amazingly well. We can talk a little bit more about that later. But the idea is I know there's a lot of complaints. I even give them sometimes. Oh, these percentages are so low. These percentages are so low. And I've really come to the conclusion that comes from a game master that doesn't allow the characters to do things that improve. Like, hey, I've got a healing kit on me. Well, crap, there's another at least 10% right there. You know, you're not just using a stick to try to splint the leg. You actually have something that can legitimately work as a splint. Okay, you know what? There you go. You know, you're under duress still, so I'm going to still make you roll, but you know, whatever. So game masters, that's really on you to put penalties in when they need to be, but put bonuses in when they should be as well. Low-level characters typically, you know, aren't climbing Mount Doom, so to speak, but they're also not just rescuing kittens from trees. You know, teenagers can do that. These are trained characters, so let them be trained. Now, I did say that I was going to look at boxing. Before I do that, let's take a look at the hand-to-hand skills. So there are 4 basic ones. I think, is this all they have in the game? I thought they had one more, but I could be wrong. There's hand-to-hand basic, expert, martial arts, and assassin. Not going to go into how to get each one. Generally speaking, everybody can have basic. Certain others might start with something higher, but usually you can spend secondary skills or OCC-related skills to upgrade. So if you have basic, then you can upgrade for another skill slot to get expert, or 2 skill slots for a total of 3 to get martial arts. All right. And yes, martial arts is more powerful than expert. Expert is more powerful than basic. Not by leaps and bounds. You're not going to go, oh my God, well, he's got martial arts, I lose. No, I played a character with martial arts and I still get my butt kicked sometimes. You know, the bonuses aren't incredibly big, but they are there. So now let's look at boxing. There's boxing. The classic art of fighting with fists. Training helps build the body and reflexes. Skilled boxers will automatically knock out opponents on a roll of a natural 20. Wait, what? Couple important words here when it comes to the Palladium game. The word automatically. And then natural 20. That means you don't have to declare it. There is a knockout strike that you can declare. I'm trying to knock him out. Okay. Get that natural 20. This one is if you roll a 20, boop, he's out. Night, lights out. The victim of a knockout will remain unconscious for 1d4 melee rounds. So that's rounds, not actions. Most characters, I think in fantasy, start with 2. I don't think this one starts with 4 like Rifts. So if you think of that as your first action for the round, and here, let me roll my d4. I got a 2. So that gives me at least 3 more actions that I can do to him before he starts, oh, what happened? What happened, man? And of course, he's, you know, on the ground. And unlike normal knockout stun, the player with the boxing skill does not have to announce that he is trying to knock the jerk out before making the roll to strike. The following bonuses are also provided. So this is part of boxing. Here's everybody's favorite. 1 additional attack per melee round. 1 additional attack. And this is why I say no. There are certain characters I will let take boxing. Yes. But for the most part, I say no to boxing. Prove to me why your Diabolus was training every day to be in the ring. Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay. Get +2 to parry and dodge. Now, we'll talk about what that is. That's part of the reactions that we'll talk about in the next segment. +1 to roll, punch, fall. So the good news on that if somebody hits you with a blunt item like a fist, you can try to roll with it to take half damage. It also says fall, which means if you're falling from high places, you can hopefully tuck and roll a little bit at the end. +2 to physical strength. What does that mean? Well, that depends. If your physical strength is a 9 and now it's 11, it doesn't mean too much. Just you can carry a little bit more. But if your physical strength is a 15, oh, so close. Now it's a 17 and you get a bonus to damage. Maybe it was already a 17. Now it's a 19. You get a bigger bonus to damage when using, your physical strength. That's what that means. And then plus 3d6 on SDC, which if you saw the numbers earlier, that can be pretty good. I mean, averages out to 10.5, so we'll say 11, but that's probably 2 sword swings. Maybe even 3. Your reaction time is a little bit. Remember, SDC isn't just like, oh, I've got a scrape. Why does a sword not hurt me? It's everything from your reaction time to your luck to your vitality to your ability to resist, whatever. It's like everything kind of rolled into what's like what D&D hit points are, right? It's just kind of an abstract measurement of your ability to resist somebody poking you in the face hole. Of course, if you're tied up, SDC doesn't matter. You're going to die. If you're tied up on the ground, execution sound, somebody goes, you're dead. No amount of SDC, you go roll your damage. No, I'm not going to roll damage. But if you're able to move and you're resisting, you're a boxer, so that means you kind of understand how fights flow. That gives you more SDC. You're harder to take down. Going to be a couple more sword swings on that, right? So, but this is the main reason that 1 additional attack per round that everybody takes boxing. I don't allow that at my tables. I know that there are going to be people, probably even in the comments right now, because I'm not reading. I'll go back and read them in a moment. That are yelling at me like, that's just not fair. It's there for a reason. I don't care. I don't care. It's one of those that people take just to abuse the system. And if it makes sense, I let you have it. If it doesn't make sense, I don't. Don't just be, well, I'm a fighter. Not every fighter knows fisticuffs, okay? That's just not the way it works. No. And then there are a bunch of other skills. I mean, look at gymnastics. Remember, the paladin couldn't take acrobatics, but he could take gymnastics. +1 to physical strength, +1 to physical prowess. That's your dexterity. +1 to physical endurance, more hit points. +2 to SDC, more of your little, shielding over your hit points. Plus roll, plunge, fall. Plus you can do some backflips, and this is to get out of fights. I will say this book doesn't clarify this as well as it probably should, but other Palladium books do. But just to put that on there, you can backflip to get out of a fight. Will I let you do that in full plate mail armor, Mr. Paladin? No, I will not. Nope. Stop arguing. I'm not gonna let you do it. But you can use it. You could definitely do like a shoulder roll. Oh yeah, you can do a shoulder roll. There are things that you can still do even in armor. Okay. Remember, a lot of people have this misconception that plate mail armor is so heavy that they couldn't even walk around it. It's like a 4-year-old in a snowmobile suit. No, they're actually kind of form-fitting. Probably actually look at the historical use of armor. I'm not saying you have to be historically accurate, perfect in everything you do. No. But there's like this weird misconception out there like, oh, you can't do anything in armor. Well, you can actually do quite a bit in armor. More so than you might think until you watch people actually do it. You're like, oh, well, okay, cool. But sense of balance is really important if you're going on that tropish, oh, we're walking across the tightrope or the 1 foot wide narrow pathway to get to the evil castle. Well, now you're rolling this, right? So, oh, and you get a kick attack at first level, which does 2d6 damage. Normally, you have to wait till your hand-to-hand skill says you can have that. And 2d6 damage is a lot. Normal kick damage is 1d6. Starting out of the gate. You get 2d6. Look at you. So that's why gymnastics is good. So anyway, a lot of the skills, again, the physical skills will give you those. And let's quickly look at weapon proficiencies, and then I think we're going to be done with the skill section here. And all right, I'm going to look at the bow stuff here because I played a longbowman recently. I want to... This is one of the areas where I have to agree, whether I want to or not, that the book has some issues. You're going to find the ranges for bows in the weapon proficiency section, not in the item section, okay? Also, there's a big consternation. I'm not even going to lie. I don't even remember where it is. Shield information is somewhere weird as well. Look, don't let that turn you off of the game. If you read the book, it's basically from beginning to end, but if you read the book like you should, which is learn it as the game master, players maybe not so much, but as the game master, You'll either discover where all these things are or know that they're in here somewhere, and there's nothing wrong. Nothing. Go ask Kevin Simbita, Sean Oren Robertson, or Jeremy Colantonio and ask them what they think about this. Hey, if I don't know the range for a bow and I don't want to slow down my game, is it okay for me to just make it up? Yes! Yes, it is. And then find out afterward and do the right thing. Or maybe you like your own stuff better. Okay? Again, players and game master, let's just say players in general, including the game master, put me in there, like to whine sometimes, like, I should have got a +4, not a +3. Shut up. It's not supposed to be a life simulator, it's a game. It's supposed to be a cinematic game. So that means sometimes, you know what, you can John Wick things. Anybody who knows anything about guns knows you can't do half the shit that John Wick does. You know what? Damn, that was a good movie, wasn't it? And I want my character to be able to do that too. Well, there you go. Now you can. Nothing in the rules says you can't be a cool John Wick as long as you have the actions for it and you accept the game master's bonuses or penalties. So. All right, now, so it's got the short bow, it's got damages. I'm not going to go into this. I just want to show the bow stuff here to let you know that this is where the ranges are. Specifically, let's just look at blunt. Let's look at blunt. It's right there. And no, I don't want you drug addicts to get all happy that we're talking about blunts now. Weapon proficiency blunt. Training with all types of blunt weapons includes maces, hammers, cudgels, pipes, staves, and clubs. Bonus, +1 to strike and parry at level 1, 3, 6, 9, and 12. And +1 to strike when thrown at levels 5, 10, and 15. Now, that's a lot of numbers. That's not a lot of numbers. Let's backtrack for a second on here. Bonus, +1 to strike and parry at levels 1. What does this mean? This means you get +1 to strike at levels 1. You are not a grand master of Kung Fu, sir. Little Jimmy down the road there needs to roll a 5 or better to hit you. You need to roll a 5 or better to hit him. Difference is you get a +1 to your roll. So really, you only need a 4 or better. What? Only +1? Yeah, only +1. Where does this come into play? Because over time, first of all, you get better. Secondly, if you're a combatant type character, you're probably going to have some other bonuses that are built in. You remember we looked at the Paladin that had some things with like +2 to parry and dodge and yada, yada, yada already, right? But yeah, your Diabolist that takes weapon proficiency blunt. He took his whole life learning how to do circles and say weird words of power. He wasn't learning how to fight. He gets +1. The levels in this game, when I say you're front loaded, doesn't turn you into, well, if we're front loaded, that means I'm the equivalent level 15 at level 1. No, you're not. But unlike D&D, a level 15 versus level 1, at least level 1 has a chance. Not a great chance, but has a chance. Saying there's a chance. Yes, I am. Modifiers don't get to Pathfinder levels in this game. Thank God. If you start getting more, past like +6 or 7, I'm looking at your character sheet. Especially at the lower to mid levels. Okay, I'm looking at your character sheet. Where'd you cheat? What'd you do wrong here? They don't go that crazy. And that's a good thing. That means that monsters can be stabilized better. That means your enemies, whether they're lower level or higher level, can be a challenge but defeatable no matter which side of that spectrum, low, high spectrum you're on. Yes, a level 15 character is going to whoop a level 1 character's butt most times. But you're saying there's a chance. Okay? So understand these modifiers aren't going to be great. And then there are other things to consider. Well, I'm not going to get a ranged weapon, but this is a fantasy game other than, say, the bows. But it says +1 to strike when thrown at levels 5, 10, and 15, but they're not designed for throwing. And I'm not going to get into all that pedantry right there. But the idea is, hey, if you want to throw your stab, be some Ip Man thing or IP Man, or whatever I'm supposed to call him, throw that. You know what? Maybe you can. And I'm going to give you a +1 or +2. It's not a lot on a D20, but it's something. Definitely something. Remember before when that Paladin was wearing the armor with AR-15? That means you have to roll a 16 or higher to hit him. Well, if you have, let's say you're a 3rd level with blunt, That gives you a +1 and a +2. Well, now you don't have to roll a 16 or higher to hit them. Now you only have to roll a 14 or higher to hit them. Because you're better with your weapon. You're more practiced. You know, not great, not perfect, but you know what? Every little bit counts. So, is there anything else I want to talk about when it comes to skills? Um, Most of the classes, I think all the classes get additional OCC related skills and secondary skills as they level up. It's not usually a 1-for-1, but one will be like every like 3 or 4, 7, 10, 13 kind of thing. Another one will be like 4, 8, and 12, whatever happens to be. So you will, it's not like all the time, but you're going to gain more skills as you get, go up higher in level. And so you can continue to build on your character. All right. If there's anything you think I missed in skills, let me know. But I think that covers everything that I need to do. This isn't a deep dive, but maybe it's a little more than an overview. Like I knew this video was going to be long when I started it. That's fine. We got 8 pillars to go through. I think this is number 3. So maybe, and I'll hopefully timestamp it for folks out there. So if you only want one at a time, like I said earlier, I don't think I'm going to make separate videos out of it, but I may choose to do that as well. Let's look at some of the chat here that's been scrolling. And all right, where did we end? Okay, still trying to work. Wait, what? Oh, that's alignment system is one of the primary reasons Palladium books became my favorite system. We weren't even talking about alignments, but I'll put that on the screen because I agree with that as well. Okay, seems like we started about there. Scary mime, kill with fire. Trying to work out psychic OCC mime. And okay, they're talking in chat. By the way, I do like the fact that you guys are talking back and forth in chat, asking those questions. Do it. A lot of Palladium fans in here that have a lot of good answers for you. So by all means, you don't have to be commenting towards me the entire time here. I agree, Nerdy Ogre. Oh, for the folks that what are you agreeing to? Well, he says, if you look, sometimes I just say that because I just kind of want to move on. But if I do say something out loud, I should probably put it on the screen here. If you look at the list, it includes dance, play, musical instrument, public speaking, and writing. These are forms of entertainment like manya. Sewing is a highly underrated skill. If you're running a good wilderness campaign, you are correct, sir. Also can be used for other things like putting knots into, tying gates shut and things like that. That's not sewing. Oh, if you want to give a bonus out there in order for them to not be able to open it up, it is, or can be. Hello. Is it Tank Ferret presents? Good to see you. There's a Palladium Fantasy 2 is good for story-driven gaming. That's Kevin's thing. This is, to be fair, this isn't going to speak as well to people who really are into miniature wargaming. Not saying you can't use miniatures. Not saying you really can't wargame, although I don't think there are a lot of rules for it. A lot of things that are put in the rifters that add to that, but the core game is more about storytelling, role-playing, and not being hyper pedantic about your tactical terrain. Like I don't think there's a rule in here like D&D has +1 for high ground type stuff, right? But doesn't mean a game master, you got the high ground. I think maybe you have a little more range, or I'll give you +1 to hit or whatever, because it just makes sense. And Kevin's got a lot of writing. I don't think there's one for Palladium Fantasy, but for Heroes Unlimited and for Rifts, and most of the information is generic, so you can get it for those. And I highly, highly, highly suggest the Heroes Unlimited one. I think it's a fantastic book. The Game Master Guide, that is. Talks about use common sense. Use common sense. I'm not going to make a rule for literally every little thing you want to try to do. Use some common sense out there. And that's one of the things I'm trying to beat home with this right here. If you're a Dungeons & Dragons player and you're like, what about this? What about this? Just use some dang common sense. Have fun. I sound more stressed than you should ever be at the table right now, right? And I'm only stressed because people get worked up over this, and there's no reason to be worked up over it. Like I said, who's the last? Well, on the screen here, I see Tank Ferret and I see Chris Ziba. So my ruling on a situation might be different than Chris's, which might be different than Tank's. Like, there you go. Do your thing. It's okay. As long as you're consistent. Was it reasonable, fair, and consistent are the words that I use. Then it's okay. It's not a mistake if it works for your table. All right. Let's see. Got to scroll through these kind of quick because I do got to get to the next section. BioKiddo says, ooh, boxing is another problem. Everyone gets for that extra attack, but why does it apply to anything outside of punching? Why is it my longbow skills affected by the sweet silence? Yeah, this is one of the areas where Heathen Dog and I disagree. Because I only give the extra attack when doing fisticuffs. I don't even give it when doing melee, although I've been kind of sold on the idea that maybe melee attacks as well. Now, this is a house rule. This is not written into the game. This is a house rule by me. Heathen Dog, and even Kevin, to be fair, has said the idea behind that, though, is that person is trained as a fighter, just has higher reflexes. So even if the person's shooting a gun, he's going to have higher reflexes. I think in Kevin's, I think Heathen Dog's trying to explain it more, where Kevin just wants to keep some simplicity there. Because when I told him my thoughts, he's like, yeah, okay, cool. Just, no big deal. So I can't read their brains, but that's just kind of the conversationally the way I took it, where Kevin was like, just keep it simple, just give the extra action, everything across the board. Heathen Dog's like, no, it's because of this, and that. And that's fine. For me, I'm going to be a little more pedantic on this one because it doesn't make sense. And to me, the spirit of the law trumps the letter of the law. And I just don't, I don't agree that it should affect, shooting a bow, for fantasy. So I'm with you on that one. But that's however you feel about it out there, dear viewer. That's how you do it at your table. As long as it's the same for everybody, NPCs, PCs, and so forth. That's how you do it at your table. Yeah, the monk. Better than the 1E monk. Yeah, I get that. I would say, BioKiddo, this is the argument that I use, is that while true, well, no, I have a hard time with this one as well. I say that because ultimately you could do for any skill. I mean, I could learn how to fly an airplane by taking some online courses. I know people have done. So you do have to get your hours in as well. I get that, but my point being, almost anything can be learned in the fantasy setting. Look at here's what I'll tell you, and this is not a hard and fast rule, but this is what I generally do. If you have hand-to-hand expert in martial arts, I generally allow you to take boxing. But if you have hand-to-hand basic, I generally don't. And even with the expert, I kind of hem and haw a little bit. That's how I do it. Because a person who's taken hand-to-hand martial arts has trained. And so I'm like, okay, you know what? It's hard to argue the boxing when you're, a martial artist. But somebody who took, the courses at the YMCA every other weekend for 2 hours, no, you're not getting boxing. But I do understand the argument that you're making there. I would end up saying, you know what? It's for the purposes of a little bit of game balance, for the lack of a better term. But if a game master says, screw this, I think boxing should be a secondary skill because I want everybody to take it, then he does. Then he does. I don't know what to say. Good to see you, Squirrel Hermit. Coup de grace the thing. Yep. I don't even know what I was talking about anymore, but thank you. Tab the physical copy for quick and easy reference. I do. Yeah. I used to highlight but man, any of the books I have from the 90s, oh my God, I was a master of highlighting horribly. Bad. Yeah, but there are some moves that he does in the movies that I'd like to see a person do in real life and go, sure. It's like Jackie Chan. Do you know how many times Jackie Chan fails at those moves before he gets them right for the movie? Good luck with that, especially in quick succession. But it's cinematic and it's fun, and this is what we want to do. So why we play it like that? All right, this is where you and I are going to disagree. You had a lot of great comments. Some of them I'm not reading, but yeah, this is where I'm going to disagree. It pays to min-max in Palladium games. I am absolutely anti-min-maxing. I don't mean that my character's strong, so I will never do anything that no. Yes, a strong person's probably going to be a fighter. and so forth. But the whole idea of just trying to get all the bonuses, one, I can tell you in my game, those bonuses, you're great in combat. What are you going to do outside of combat? Well, my character just, won't deal with that. You'll have to. I will not let you out, just fight everything and not have consequences happen in other areas, okay? Just as an example, I'm just saying that's one example. So there's always is a well-rounded character better, or is a character that's more, oh my God, I would say specific. That's not the word I'm looking for, but anyway, that focuses on something better. That all depends. If you have a big enough party, you got 6 or so people in the party, maybe focusing isn't a big deal because you can rely on somebody else. That's not that deal. But I don't like the idea of min-maxing. I just don't. I don't min-max characters. I played my Ranger. Everybody will tell you that the Ranger sucks pretty much in every game, but in this game, they'll say the Ranger sucks. I had a Ranger I absolutely loved. I adored that character to death. A Wolf and Ranger, man, that was fun times. Different tables, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But I don't see the need for min-maxing at all. I do see the need for viability, and I don't like playing against type. Now, one could argue, well, it's kind of a form of min-maxing because, you're not going against the grain. You're not just going all min. What I'm saying is I'm not trying to, what's the perfect skill for this? I'm a ranger. I'm probably going to need wilderness survival if it already doesn't come with me. Land navigation. Probably want to shoot a bow. Probably want to be good with a sword. Maybe want to be able to deal with horses and animals because, I'm a ranger thing. Depending on what the game gives me, right? I don't remember everything that it gives. Yeah, I'll look at those things as kind of like tropes and concepts. Yeah, but I'm not going to be like, hold on. I synergize this with this one over here. And I get myself in this position right here. That means I only need to roll a 14 or higher and I automatically kill the person every time. Like, I will never do that. I will never do that. And I don't think you need to do that in a game like this. Different strokes for different folks, though. And that's the big thing about Palladium that I think it does even better than Dungeons and Dragons. Remember, I'm an AD&D 2E guy, but I played 3 and 5E quite a bit as well. Is this allows for absolutely disparate playstyles. Maybe not at the same table, but you can absolutely have the murder hobo, min-maxer, what's power gamer, what are all the terms we want to use here? And play and have fun. And you can have the pure story gamer, role player, here's my 30-page backstory, and again, have all the fun in the world. This game is built for that. So, absolutely. And yes, please like and share. Thank you very much. Palladium Fantasy definitely rocks. I agree with you, Squirrel Hermit. Oh, here we go. I own all the Palladium Fantasy 2E. I'm sorry. My God, I can't read. I'm not dyslexic, I promise. I own all the Palladium 2E fantasy books regarding Rifts. I'm still waiting for essay. I feel like I should know. South America? Okay, 1 and 2. Yeah, South America 1 and 2 in Africa book. Rifts is not easy to get here. Ooh, sorry to hear that. Yeah, I was never a Rifts guy until recently. The whole thing, like, yeah, it's the kitchen sink. And I'd be like, yeah, I don't want the kitchen sink. But they've slowly been converting me. Slowly. All right. I'm sorry, I got to skip some of these chats a little bit. I got to keep going. I want to answer all of them, but I got to get to the next segment here. Oh, okay. I get. Okay, I want to put this up for the clarification so people don't think. Yeah, I do mean leaning into your archetype. That I agree with. And thing is, what's cool is with the OCC related skills, you can take that archetype in a couple of different directions, a few different directions. So, okay, we're good. I'm gonna play a dwarven pastry chef. No, the only thing you can cook is iron. You have to eat iron ingots. All right, let's get to the next. My God, I should have had the cover up there, but oh well. I already forgot what the next topic is. So we just did skills, right? I think we're doing combat next. Yep, combat. And if you're saying, Max, this video is way too long, remember, folks, this is a live stream, number 1. Number 2, I'm going to timestamp it for the different 8 pillars, as I guess I'm calling them here. So if you really you don't care about magic and you want to skip to psychics, you can do that later. The idea of this is to overview the entire book. Yes, that is right. The entire book in one sitting, so that somebody coming from another game or brand new to tabletop gaming, or maybe you as a Palladium fan want to encourage somebody to do this, be like, you got to check out Palladium Fantasy. You got to do it. You're missing out if you haven't given it a chance. So, okay. So, combat. In the Palladium Fantasy RPG, you experience a combat system where every swing matters and an active defense with parries, dodges, and rolling with punch keeps you on the edge of your seat. Now, while I did script that, I actually mean that. In fact, I'm still not sold on the updated combat that came with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've run a few more internal tests with just me because I haven't had a chance to do it with a group yet. And maybe I'm doing something wrong. I got to see how the players at the table really react to it, but I love the Palladium combat, whether it's 2 actions per round or 4 actions per round, as presented in, we'll say, everything up before 2025. I really do. Okay. Now, if that's not the intent the way Palladium wanted it, well, dang it, too bad. This way I'm going to keep doing it. I love the way the system plays. It shows combat as a scrum, which is one of my big deals. Is like, I love initiative every round. I know some people don't like that. Well, guess what? If you're coming from Dungeons and Dragons, the newer rules are more in your liking because you roll initiative once and you're done. And then you use moves within the combat that allow you to adjust that initiative. And plus you might re-roll because there's a break in the action at some point and it's just time to re-roll. So other things can come up, but I like the whole scrum idea that everything's chaotic. You thought you were going to punch first, but you didn't because you just didn't, things happen that way, right? But you have the action, reaction. What, you mean everybody hits on a 5? Yep. 5 or better hits. That's it. What the hell? He's first level, I'm 15th level. Yeah, but you got like a +7 to parry. So you just go bling and block it. Okay? Come on, calm down. Calm down, buddy. So, and that's what it comes down to. And we'll get to that in a moment here. So unlike games where you just sit and take a hit, here you can parry, dodge, roll with punch, turning every skirmish into a cinematic exchange of blow. And that cinematic word is important. It's not meant to be perfectly realistic. It's meant to be wonderfully cinematic. Doesn't mean that it doesn't fit reality at all. It isn't going to be a perfect fit to reality. I don't know if any of them are in chat right now, but ask any competition shooter what they think about the firearms rules. Now, to be fair, we're playing fantasy here. We don't really have to worry about that. But the idea is it's not meant for the purest competition shooter in real world. It's meant for somebody rolling dice, playing a game that wants to perform certain actions. And this game does that wonderfully. It's a tactical dance that starts simple, but offers layers of depth for players who want to master the art of blade, shield, and hip tosses. Hip toss, yeah. Body block tackle, body flip throw, holds, grapples. You have all of that. So let's look at the combat section here. Again, I don't exactly know what's in the Palladium Fantasy book for this. Why are you promoting a game you don't know much about? Because I've been a player. I've never really been a game master in this, so I haven't had to digest it to the nth degree. Oh, where the hell is combat? Character background, experience points, insanity. I love insanity. We're not going to talk about that today, but I love it. Love it. Okay, combat rules, page 43. Look at this. By the way, combat rules. Everybody gives people so much crap for combat, but it goes from page 43 to 48, and that includes psychic combat, horror factor, the various hand-to-hand combat skills, which are, spread out across the 15th level. There aren't a lot of things you have to know. Aren't. So let's get into that. Let's find out what we do need to know, right? 43. So I'm guessing 44. Yep. So first thing you do is you determine initiative. The attacker rolls a strike. It's called the roll to strike in this game. So remember, you need a 5. Right now you're rolling D20. Skills, we're rolling the percentile dice, but here you're rolling the D20. Is that a D20? Nope. Is that a D20? Nope. Oh, my D20s. Where are D20s? Oh, I'm out of D20. Oh, there we go. Make sure it's not like a 24 or something. Okay, it's a D20. So, got my D20 here. Oh, you know what I should be doing? Why am I holding that one? Come on, let's go all turtles. I got my turtles mutagen green die here. That's right. You can get that off the Palladium store right now. Hold on. Can you see the glitter move and that little small thing? Look at that. It's all mutagenic nonsense. probably touching. Let me lick it, see if it's like licking an Amazon frog. Anyway, let's so roll initiative. So I roll my D20. Oh, I got a 20. I got a 20. Loaded die. It's mutated. So I got a 20 on initiative. I'm going first. Screw all these guys, right? Chances are I'm going first anyway. So I got my 20 on initiative. And let's say the other guy gets a 4. So the 20 goes first. So I take my attack. Now I'm being very, very hyper simplistic. You can do more. I just want to be simplistic about this. Okay, I roll to strike. I got a sword. We'll just say I got a sword. I want to hit him. With my sword, we'll say I have a +2, either because of physical prowess or because of my weapon proficiency or combination thereof, my level, who knows. But I got a +2 to strike. So I need to roll a 5 or better. What do I get? What? Don't roll off the die. Oh, I got a 2. Wait. But I have a +2 bonus. I got a 4. Oh, I still miss. I missed. What kind of joke was that? So he rolls. He doesn't have to do anything. He gets to use his action now, right? Again, we're just doing this very simplistic. Cling, cling, cling. It's like, two kids with the rolled up newspaper trying to beat each other. He rolls a 17. What a jerk. He hits me. Why? Because he got a 5 or higher. Well, I don't want him to hit me. I want to parry that. And since parry and strike, they're sometimes different, but oftentimes they're the same, I'm just going to say that, actually usually strike is 1 or 2 lower a lot of times, but we're just going to say it's the same. We're going to say I have a +2 to parry at the same time, okay? So I now have to tie or beat his 17 with my own D20 roll because I'm parrying. He's like, he rolled the hit, he got a 17. He has not rolled damage yet. And I'm like, I'm going to parry that. Okay. Parry does not take an action. Palladium pedantics out there, pedants, please do not put the caveats in there. For the most part, for what we're talking about, parry does not take an action, okay? And I rolled a 1. I went from a 20 to a 2 to a 1. Well, guess what I didn't do? I didn't parry. Even with my +2 bonus that makes it a 3, I did not parry. So now the opponent rolls damage, and we'll assume he's using a sword. He rolls a D6, a D8, whatever. He does damage to me. And chances are, barring some of the best armor in the game, he actually hit me, not my armor. Because of what we talked about earlier. If we go with that armor rating 15 scale mail armor that we showed earlier with the Paladin, well, he rolled a 17. That bypasses my armor and hits me. I don't have the sword damage in front of me. Let's just say it's a D8. I don't know. Well, actually, I'm going to say D6 because I grabbed one of those quicker. He hits me for 5 points of damage to my SDC, not to my hit points yet. You only go to hit points when you do some sort of special attack that states that, like a death blow. Or when you bypass all the armor. Well, he took 5 points off that scale mail, and if you remember, it had 75 SDC. It's down to 5 now. So no, I'm sorry. No, he took it off of me. Why am I saying my scale mail? He bypassed my armor. So my scale mail is still pristine at 75. He just found a weak link in there and did 5 points of damage to my SDC. Well, hopefully as a fighter, I got 20 typically. I mean, it could be a little more, a little less. 20 plus whatever I get for my race. So humans, I think, are normally 10. So that's like 30 SDC. I'm down to 25 now. We're still in round 1. Now I get to swing back at him. We're going to just assume that both characters have 2 attacks per round, make life easy. I'm not going through a whole combat here, but here's what happened again. Let's do this one more time. We rolled initiative. I attacked him. I just missed. He didn't have to give up a dodge, a parry, or anything. He just missed. He swung at me. He hits. I tried to parry it. Didn't work. We both used 1 action because parry doesn't take an action as long as you have a hand-to-hand skill. So it's my attack back on him. I'm going to hit this jerkwad this time. Ooh, I got a 10. So technically I've hit him. He is going to roll to parry. No, you know what? Just to show, I would roll the parry, but yeah, let's do it. I roll a parry again. He rolls to parry. He gets an 11. I was like, yeah, I got you. And he goes, no, you don't. So I missed again, even with my +2. So, by the way, I rolled an 8. I should have said that better. I rolled an 8. +2 is 10. But so I missed again. And then for his last action this round, he's going to try to, do the same thing. Normally I do combat a little more, fun than that, but just to get an idea, he rolls a 9, which means he hits me. Well, I get a +2 to my parry, so let's do that. Natural 20. That's a second natural 20. I'm loving you. Yeah, but he also rolled a 1, jerk. So I parry that. I parry that with these. Bling. And in the quickest sense of the word, that combat is over. No, I didn't try to hip toss him. I didn't try to body block tackle him. I didn't try to pick him up. I didn't try to grapple him. I didn't try to run around him. I didn't try to do any movements. I didn't put any of that in. I just wanted to show you really quickly how a cling, cling, cling sword fest can work. Combat is going to work more interestingly than that, but that's how easy the dice rolls go. So if I wanted to do a body block tackle on him, assuming, maybe I have wrestling or something, that might give me a bonus to it. I don't know off the top of my head. Maybe I have a +3 bonus to body block tackle him. I rolled a 12. That's a 15. He can try to dodge that. I think you can parry that as well, but let's say he tries to dodge that. He rolls an 11. He did not dodge. Not only did he lose an action because he tried to dodge it, dodging takes an action, unlike parrying. He lost an action. Doesn't mean he has to skip anything. I know there's some talk out there about, oh, now he just skipped his turn. No, it just means he used up an action, and once you're out of actions, you're done. That's how that works. Okay, so you don't have to skip anything. But I hit him with that body block tackle, which means there's a high probability I knocked him on his butt. Which means, oh, guess what? He lost his actions, and he lost initiative. Of course, he already had lost initiative. But it means he lost it again, for sure. But when we roll it next round, the way I do it, again, the more modern rules, I'm saying this because TMNT tweaks, the brand newest 2025 TMNT tweaks this a little bit. All right. We'd keep the same initiative. So I'd keep my 20, he'd keep his 4. It just means he's knocked on his bum. I think knockdown also has you lose an action, if I remember correctly. We can look here in just a moment. But that's it. I'm not going to try to confuse this anymore. It's very simple. All these abilities will tell you what they can do. And when you see things in there, you're like, what the hell is a pull punch? Pull punch isn't something that's used a lot, but it can be used. Let's say you don't actually want to kill somebody. You just want to, hey, I just want to do 1 point of damage. I just want to do half my damage. Then you do a pull punch. It's a little harder because people are moving. Combat's a scrum. But you can do that to, especially if you want to toy with somebody. There's entangle, which you can entangle somebody's weapon. This is another maneuver I don't see a lot of people doing. It's definitely a good reason as to why you either want to have multiple weapons, because you probably want to drop it, or you're going to want to learn some grappling skills. All right. Which all they do is they just increase the roll. It's still a 5 or better hits. You're just trying to increase the ability to resist your parry and dodge. A lot of your bonuses or a lot of your combat doesn't come down to necessarily what level you are. It really comes down more to defense than it comes down to offense. If you roll a 5 or higher, you're going to hit. But what am I rolling to resist? Well, if I have decent armor on, well, right there's 1 resistance, right? Now you may hurt my armor, you may hurt me. The other one is maybe I've got a decent parry or dodge. And yes, there is a thing in the game called auto dodge. I'm not going to get into that now. That's diving too deep into the weeds, but that it doesn't take an action. But that's a very specific case. Okay. Most dodge will take an action. Parrying does not. Well, guess what you can't do? Well, guess what most people can't do? Parry arrows. You have to try to dodge it with probably a penalty because arrows come in fast. So, all right. And it gives you the sequence here. Term initiative, attacker rolls, defender may parry, dodge, or entangle. Attacker rolls damage, and then defender may attempt to roll with punch impact. That's if it is a bludgeoning weapon. You can't roll with a sword. It gives a combat sequence again. And then to hear the body block tackles, the backflips, and flip throws, and the other things that you can do. A death blow. That's something that usually comes with hand-to-hand martial arts. I think it might come with expert also. We're on a natural 20. The damage goes directly to hit points. You bypass the armor. You bypass the SDC. It goes directly to hit points. Talks about armor rating there. And then it gives basic damages here for a normal person. I personally, I don't like this list. I like it in terms of storytelling. I don't like it. Hold on. Let me see. Oh, I want to do a karate kick attack because it does more damage. To be fair, you actually have to have the right hand-to-hand and get it at a certain time. But the point is, man, just punches do a certain damage, kicks do a certain damage, and maybe with martial arts it increases it, whatever. But this is good for explaining why. Well, I did a roundhouse kick. That's why it did so much more. Okay. But I think of this more as story-driven than a tactical selection. When it becomes a tactical selection, it slows down the game and gets a little weird. My taste, your mileage may vary. I'm sure somebody's in chat already saying, no, you're wrong. That's fine. That's just my take on it. So at disarming, entangling, and then the various hand-to-hand, holds, jump kicks, knockout, stun. A lot of those are just things that will come as your hand-to-hand skill increases. It'll say you now have the ability to do this, and the rules for it are here. Okay. Paired weapons is always a fun one. And then it gives saving throws. Now, saving throws can be another one you're going to be looking all over the book for and not know where it is. So I'm telling you right now, saying what page is this? On page 46, it's at the, well, I wouldn't even say it's at the end of the combat chapter, but it's in the combat chapter, saving throws. So whether you're saving against magic circles or versus poison or whatever else, on page 46. There you go. Now, actually, you know what? I do want to mention this. When it comes to magic, magic is based on the power of the caster. And I don't know if we're going to dive into that when we talk about magic, but it's based on the power level of the caster. For psychics, it's based on the power level of you. If you are a master psychic, you need to roll a 15 or better. I'm sorry, it's a 10 or better. 10 or better. Let me say this correctly. If you're a master psychic, you roll a 10 or better, save. You got 50-50 chance to save against somebody else. Well, 55, really. Percent chance to save against somebody else's psionics. If you're a major or minor psychic, which is what most are, you have to roll a 12 or better to save against somebody's psychic powers. But if you're a non-psionic, if you're my wolf and ranger, you have to roll a 15 or better to save versus psychic powers. So this is so psychic is based on the target, we'll just say, where magic is based on the caster. So saving throws can get a little funky. It's not confusing. It's just one of those things that might be like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. All right. And then here's what you get. We're not going to look through all this, but here's what you get for having a particular hand-to-hand skill. Hand-to-hand basic, plus starts with 2. So Palladium Fantasy is a 2 attack per round system, not the 4 like Heroes Unlimited or or Rifts. So 2 attacks per round. You get +2 to roll with punch, fall, impact, and +2 to pull punch. Not a lot at level 1, but it gets you started. At level 2, all of a sudden, boom, +2 to parry and dodge. There you go. Now you're learning some stuff, right? And at level 4, you get an additional attack per round. So if you don't have boxing, now you have 3. If you do have boxing, now you have 4. Look at that. That's awesome. So, and it keeps going up and up. And that's just basic. Martial arts, you can see the lines are a little longer because it gives you more stuff. Look at level 2, +3 to parry and dodge. Oh, and +2 to strike and disarm. So there you go. Okay. And I think horror, we're not going to talk about horror factor and psychic combat. These are things your game master will need to know. But I think combat is more simplistic than people give it credit for, but more deep. It's like, what was that game, Othello? Is it minutes to master, or sorry, a minute to learn, lifetime to master? That's a lot of what Palladium is. And I wouldn't say a lifetime to master because that sounds scary. I would say it's really simple, but as you play it more, you start learning like, oh, you know what? Why don't more people grapple? Why don't more people disarm? Because when you fail the disarm roll, you're like, damn, I wasted an action. But when you don't fail the disarm, you're like, yeah, So there we go. Do you believe we're 2 hours into this right now and we're only halfway through? I told you all it was going to be a long live stream. Told you all it was going to be a long live stream. So, all right, let's look at the chat here, see what we've got, and then we'll move on. What's our next topic? Our next topic is going to be magic. Luckily, there's a lot of Palladium people in chat right now, so correct me. Scroll back. Can I tell where we started? I think around there. Common sense became an art form. That's funny. Yeah, right? Oh, wow. Actually, I scrolled back too far because we're back in the archetype thing. That's too much information, Nerdy Ogre. That's too much information. You got me on a 5 or better, but I'm wearing AR-13 armor. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, that's true. So again, to explain this for folks out there, if I roll, what does my D20 give me this time? A 3. You jerk. Give me a real number. There we go, 11. So I rolled an 11. This means I hit him. But he has armor rating 13. It means I hit his armor, not him. Now, that's better than a miss, because a miss means I did nothing. This will pull off SDC from his armor. So whatever damage I roll will come from his armor. Now, I don't know about you guys out there, but me personally, if you punch, I don't let you damage armor. That's just, sorry. Now maybe with a gauntleted hand I might, but I don't generally let you hurt armor with a fist. But if I would have, now even if I had that +2 bonus we were talking about, that 11 becomes a 13. You're like, you got it, didn't you? Nope. I don't want to call it confusing, and I'm not going to talk about any updates, but in the 40 some years of Palladium, in this case, Ty goes to the defender, and the defender isn't the parrier, or isn't the attacker, or isn't the die roller. It's literally the defender. So you actually have to roll a 14, because Nerdy Ogre in this case would be the defender, right? So I actually have to roll a 14 to hit him personally. So on a 1 to 4, I miss. On a 5 to 13, I hit the armor. On a 14 or higher, I hit him. That's how it's done. Very simple. So let's see. Yeah, Nerdy Ogre, that would piss me off too. And if people in chat are like, what did you say? I don't even want to say it. It's such a horrible idea. I absolutely despise. By the way, I removed that rule from the game in my games. You can't do it unless you tie the initiative. If you tie the initiative, then it's basically automatic. All right, later, Tank. Thank you for being here. Okay. And you know what? You're not wrong on this. There's always another layer. You go as deep in the Palladium system as you want, but there's always another layer to uncover. It's the 666 layers of the Abyss. But that's the thing, is you don't have to use all those layers, and sometimes you just tell the players, calm down. Let's just keep it simple for now. Other times, like, oh, dude, that is awesome. I like to use, for my modern games, I like to use the compendium of modern weapons. Or contemporary weapons, or whichever one it's called. I think it's both. I like that book, but that as a whole, that adds like 50 more layers on there, but that's just my style because it's grittier. You don't need to do all that. Now, let's get to, I guess, yeah, magic is next. Ooh, magic. Somebody's going to clip that. Magic in Palladium is a visceral, powerful force featuring everything from the classic spell-slinging wizard, the elementalist warlock, the sigil and rune master diabolist, and so much more. And I think I was supposed to show those classes here, but I already showed them in the OCC section. So we might actually kind of speed through this one a little more. We'll find out. With a PPE, or a potential psychic energy system, casters have the flexibility to manage their energy like a mana resource, choosing when to cantrip and when to unleash the world-shaking ritual that can turn the tide of an entire campaign. For full disclosure, I have never played a magic-using character myself, but I've been in parties with them, and they are incredibly powerful without feeling like they take over or unbalance the game. Now, there are certain spells in there that people can argue over. Carpet of Adhesion is one, but I think there are mitigating factors to those spells that don't make them nearly as powerful, or you can add caveats to your game that tone them down a little bit. But in our Palladium playlist, I have a video that delves into the Diabolist. You should check it out, especially if you look at it and feel that it is not a viable class, like Heathen Dog says. That's NPC only. You should check it out. So for now, let's glance over the magic classes and look at a few spells. So like I said, we already looked over the magic classes. Maybe I'll whip through them again just because, maybe somebody skips to this part. But we'll look at some spells. So magic starts on page 179. So I think I type in 180 here. Oh yeah, there it is. How does magic work? You spend PPE, you make things happen. It's that simple. It's that simple. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons that has the spell slot system, this uses like a mana point system called PPE. We're not going to worry about belief and the mental disciplines and all that other stuff. It gives great lore and fluff and background to understand why and how magic works and its limitations. But it's also a really good book on magic. I have it that has more spells and dives into that stuff even more. But we're here to kind of give you the overview of let's see. So drawing PPE from other living beings, yes, you can do that. Again, if you play a wizard, so there are different ways of regaining your PPE, like ley lines. You can, well, I'm not going to go into the cruel way of doing it. There are cruel ways of doing it. Murder gives you, just saying, you didn't hear it from me. A lot of ley lines in here. Wow, a lot more than I thought. The pursuit of magic, types of magic. There's spell magic, there's ritual and ceremonial magic, all types of things. The game is deep. If you've read it in a novel, it probably exists here somewhere. Learning spells, magic combat. Oh, this is going to be one that's a little bit different than what you might be used to. Now, we've already talked about actions per round, right? You start off with 2 actions per round. And then you go, if you have boxing, you get, 3. And if you've got, certain hand-to-hand skills at particular levels, you get another one. So you'll probably have at higher level, you'll have a good 4 or 5, maybe even 6 actions per round, right? So let's see what that translates to when it comes to using magic. Spells are usually invocations taking the form of a chant or a mantra, require minimum potential psychic energy, and can be performed quickly. 2 low-level spells, so spells level 1 through 8, can be cast per melee round. So it doesn't matter how many actions your character has based on his hand-to-hand skill, you can cast 2 low-level spells per round. If it's a level 1 spell through a level 8 spell, you can cast 2 of those per round as long as you have the potential psychic energy. Okay? Higher levels of magic are more complex and require more time to perform. Only 1 spell per round can be cast spells 9th and 10th level. It's funny. I thought this was 1 to 5, not 1 to 8. Hey, Palladium fanatics that are in chat right now, is that a Rifts thing, or am I misremembering, or is that a different... Like, I thought it was 1 to 5 for this, and then 6 to 10 for high level. But again, I could be completely wrong about that. Only 1 spell. That means an entire round where that dude with the extra attacks per round, let's just say he's high level, and because you're probably not casting those spells without being high level anyway, although there's no technical reason why you couldn't other than PP. You're like humming for 15 seconds as he's trying to beat you down. All right. And then spells of levels 11 through 15 require 2 melee rounds or longer. So the ritual spells are going to take longer. So that's 30 seconds of casting. But those are also really high-level spells. Ceremonial ritual magic, any spell cantation from level 7 or higher can be cast as a ritual. Any spell incantation can be cast as a ritual. So I'm not going to dive into what all that is. There's circle magic. And then saving throws. Now, we're going to look at the saving throws a little bit because we looked at them for psychics. I know we did that in the combat section. So if you're looking for psychic saving throws, well, it was when I was discussing combat. But it works a little differently for magic. With rare exception, a living creature, human, non-human, animal, automatically gets a saving throw against magic that enchants, curses, poisons, or controls a character. Note, animals are -4 to save. Oh man, I didn't know that. Oh, I would have known that. Never mind. Thinking history there. And inanimate, non-living objects get no saving throw. Oh, wow. Okay, that's good to know. A successful saving throw against magic means the magic has little or no effect. I don't want to go into this. What I wanted to go into particularly... Oh, here we go. To save. This is what I was looking for. To save, saving throws are considered combat. So you're rolling a d20, not the percentile dice. Percentile dice are skills, the d20s for combat. This would be considered a combat. Save versus spell magic. The player generally rolls a 12 or higher against individuals who are 1st, 2nd, 3rd level of experience. 13 against mages who are 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th level. You see where this is going? 14 against mages who are 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th level. 15 or higher for characters who are 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, or higher. I didn't even know you could go higher than 15. The point is in this case, in the psychic, it was all about you. Are you a psychic? Are you a master psychic? Are you a major psychic? Or are you not a psychic at all, right? Well, in this case, it's determined by the caster casting on you. All right. And then you can save versus other types of magic as well. And then there's canceling magic. You can interrupt the spellcaster, negate the magic, anti-magic clouds, and so forth. And I highly suggest if you're playing a wizard in this game, take some sort of anti-magic spell. So many times when people cry about, oh, armor of it. Well, nobody cries about armor of Ithin, I don't think. But, a carpet of adhesion is too powerful. Spell it. Like, why do we have to come up with excuses like, if you dump a bunch of alcohol in it, like it's a mimic from D&D, that'll dilute it a little bit and lessen its duration by half. I've seen somebody do that. I'm not against rules like that if that's what works for your table. I'm not against it at all. But maybe if you just took a dispel magic or anti-carpet of adhesions, but no, there's no such thing. But here we are. Let's just look at some spells here. You got Fly as the Eagle as a warlock spell. Apparently, it says additional spells. I don't understand. Oh, that's possession. Okay. This is a spell list for whom? Is it all the spells? Oh, okay. Apparently, this is all the spells. For some reason, I thought they had, like the warlocks had different from the wizards. Wizards, or are these wizards? I don't know. We'll find out. Because I thought the warlock spells were different than the wizards, but I might be wrong. Or maybe the warlocks can just take elemental versions or stuff. So just a couple. Let's look at a couple of those ones that we talked about. See invisible, sense evil, sense magic, thunderclap. This invocation. This is the first. I want to pick one that's first level. The invocation produces a booming clap of thunder that is so loud it seems to make the air vibrate. A thunderclap is an excellent means of alerting or signaling allies as well as a way of intimidating one's enemies. As an intimidation device, it will normally startle and distract everyone other than the spellcaster. This provides the creator of the thunder with a bonus of +5 on his initiative. Well, this is another reason to roll every round. Or just add 5 to whatever his initiative roll is at that time. If that's probably the simplest way to do it. Or if he casts it before the combat starts, then he just gets a +5. Just roll right. But he gets +1 to strike, parry, and dodge because people are kind of like, whoa, what the heck just happened? And creates a horror factor of 8. All characters within 30 feet must roll save versus horror factor except the mage who made the thunder. That includes his allies. And they're all like rolling. I rolled a 10, so that means I made it. I forget exactly what the effects of horror factor are. I think you either lose 1 attack or all attacks, half attack, something like that. But you're negative. Like you're freaked out. Like, what the heck? What's going on, man? So and maybe we can look at that later. It's not important to get through every single rule of the game here, like horror factor and whatnot. The important thing for us to discuss is just to show the diversity of the spells in the game. Fear, fear, horror factor 16. That's pretty good. Although my Nightbane character had a horror factor of 22. Technically not possible, but we did it anyway. Different game. Armor of Ithin. This is one I don't think any wizard goes without. So we've already talked about armor in a couple different sections, but notably the combat section, right? So the range is self or other, so you can cast on yourself or you can cast on somebody else. Duration is 1 minute per level of experience. So if you're a 3rd level caster, that'll be 3 minutes, which means 12 melee rounds. There's no saving throw for it. Why would somebody want to save? I suppose you could save if you're like, I don't want it, go away. But generally speaking, nobody's going to save versus a spell because they want it. And it costs 10 of the characters PPE. And yes, spellcasters have way more PPE, and we'll maybe find out about that in a moment. Way more PPE than non-spellcasters do. If one of you weirdos in the chat right now, because we got 50 people watching. Oh, thank you everybody who is watching right now. I actually got some really good numbers on this, considering that my normal live streams haven't been doing so well recently. But if one of you guys can tell me what a human wizard, or warlock, it doesn't matter. Don't get crazy. A human wizard or warlock has as base PPE. That'd be really wonderful if you could look that up and tell me what page that's on. That'd be awesome. Thank you. If not, we'll get to it. We'll try to find it here in a little bit. I just don't want to have to look it up. Yeah, I'm being lazy. Putting the chat to work. All right. So this powerful spell instantly creates an invisible, weightless, noiseless, full suit of mystic armor on the spellcaster, named after the magic armor of the dwarf King Ithin. This magic armor is an AR, so armor rating of 18 and 100 SDC plus 10 SDC per level. Remember, folks, scale mail armor had an AR of 15 with 75. This one spell has an AR of 18, which means you have to roll a 19 or 20 to hit the caster. 5 to 18 hits the armor. Now those aren't natural. Bonuses count in. I didn't say it earlier, but we were kind of talking through that. So right now I rolled a 12. But if for some reason I had a +7 to strike, 12 plus 7 is 19, I hit, even though I rolled a natural 12. But if I have no bonus, or let's say my +2 bonus that I kept talking about, that 12 becomes a 14, and unfortunately it still hits the armor. But I do take off the SDC of that armor, which is 100. So it's going to be a while to break through that. Now, before you start saying things like, oh my God, combat in this game must take forever, it doesn't actually. Because one of the things that this game does well is if you're doing a duel, it might take a while. Because if you look at maybe fencing in the Olympics is a little different, but when you look at cinematic duels, they tend to take a while. It's supposed to be, back and forth, back and forth. Oh, he's got the upper hand, right? But when you are a team fighting a couple of monsters, you've got multiple people taking down those monsters. So combat doesn't take as long as you might think. So furthermore, magic, fire, lightning, and cold do half damage. So if somebody throws some fire at you or some cold spell or zaps you with a lightning bolt, whatever, half damage. The armor can be instantly created upon anyone as long as the spellcaster invokes a spell while touching the intended recipient. So that's the only limitation. I got to touch you. That's what, third level spell? Now, Dungeons and Dragons players, I can verify this above, or somebody in chat can verify this for me, but I'm pretty confident levels, you're not restricted. You don't have to wait until level 3 to have this spell. You can get it at any time. Level 3 just determines its general power rating. You can have this spell at level 1. All right. Walter MC says individual. So page 180. Oh, okay. Well, let's. Whoa, that was the wrong button. Let's scroll up to page 180 then. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Oh, it is. Oh, it's under individual PP. Okay, here we go. Bloop. Thank you, Walter. We looked at PP earlier, but I thought it was just the weird ways of getting it. So the average person has some degree of potential psychic energy. Adult humans, wolf, and most mortal beings have comparatively little. Yeah, adults, we lose our sense of wonder and imagination, which means we lose a lot of our PPE. The average adult has little of this energy left because he or she has unwittingly used it to develop skills, talents, and physical attributes as he grew into adulthood. So, typically, I don't care about kids or teenagers. So it's 2d6 to start. And okay, practitioners of magic. Here we go. Regardless of race or age, have learned to draw upon, nurture, and hold potential psychic energy, becoming living batteries of magic energy. The typical mage will have 10 to 40 times more. Okay, well, that's a lot than the average person. This energy can be drawn upon at will, much like the psychic characters draw upon psionic inner strength point. Oh, nice try there. Inner strength points, ISP, to use your psionic powers. In fact, psionic powers are just different focus of PPE that enables a character to develop psychic powers. We'll talk about that a little bit more in that. So I guess we'd have to look at the wizard and or human to figure out exactly how much more, and we can maybe do that at the end here to see how much PPE they start with. But just remember that Armor of Ithin is 10. Let's pick one more spell. I'm just going to scroll down until okay, we're going to do that. Reduce Self, Magic Pigeon, Teleport Lesser. I don't know. Smooth Fish, Tech Poison. It's got to be Fireball. Okay, you can never say no to Fireball. You know that. Don't even act like you can. Range 90 feet. Duration is instant. Damage 1d6 per level of experience. Saving through a dodge, but the victim must know the attack is coming and must roll an 18 or higher. Why is it so high? Because it's an area of effect spell. It's an area of effect spell. And, dodging an area of effect spell is not as easy as it only costs 10 PPE for this. So it costs 10 for that armor, and it costs 10 for this fireball. Just to be clear, Fire Fist costs 15, so I hope it does more, right? The spellcaster creates a large fireball, which hurls at his target at awesome speed, inflicting 1d6 points of damage per each level of the spellcaster. So what does that mean? A spellcaster 5th level does 5d6. The fireball is magically directed and seldom misses. All right. So that gets you an idea. Look at all these spells as I keep scrolling. And there is actually a book of spells that Palladium's put out as well that you can get for Palladium Fantasy if you want even more. Oh, creating golems, doing this, elemental magic. Oh, yeah, that was just wizard magic. I knew they were in different sections. See, I was right. Now we have the elemental magic. We're not going to look at that, but look at all these new spells. Now, some of them, to be fair, are copies, but most of these are brand new. I mean, Thunderclap, we got that one. Okay, but Cloud of Slumber, that's something that's new. So let's keep scrolling through all of these spells. We're going to get to the first caster class, and we're going to see how much PPE that wizard has. Alchemy. Yep, you can do alchemy. Just get me to the dumb wizard, please. Magic items. And we're scrolling. And we're scrolling. And we're scrolling. Herb lore. Oh, yeah, there you go. Oh, what the hell? Where are my OCCs? Well, now I'm getting a little angry. Now I might have to go to the index. Yep, it looks like I passed them up. Maybe they're all before then. Hold on, let's my computer catch up here. Come on. Come on. All right. Let's see. Oh, they're down. There's okay, so where is a magic? 100. Okay. So we're gonna look at the wizard real quickly here. And we're just gonna see how much PPE he has. Got there. Spell conversion. Probably gonna be in here. Okay, yeah, I get it. Wizards get to do a lot of weird things. They're creepy wizards. We understand. Ley line. Okay, that's ley line. See and use ley lines, ley line drifting. Let's see abilities. Recognize magic, magic bonus. Okay, here we go. All practitioners of magic are living batteries of mystic energy. The character draws from this base to create magic and cast spells. Permanent PPE base 3d4 times 10 plus 20. Well, let's just let's do that on here in case you're not good at mathing. It's a word, by the way. So I got a 4 and a 4. Hey, some dice working for me. Take that d20 and a 3. Oh, that's awesome. So 4 and 4 is 8. So I got 11. 11 times 10 is 110 plus 20. That's 130 PPE at level 1. Add 3d6 preach level experience starting at level 1. So I have 130 base. Like, I think I'm going to start playing wizards now. Oh my God. And I roll the 4, 2, 6. That's 10, 12. So it's 142. There we go. I have 142 PPE. Remember, that fireball costs 10. I can throw 14 fireballs before I'm like, guys, I'm out of gas. Or 10 armor of Ithans. You know. Anyway, you get the idea. So casting isn't as limited as it is in Dungeons and Dragons, but it does have its own cost. So that's awesome. So don't forget to add your PE to. Does it say that? I didn't see that here. Oh, it does. In addition to the physical endurance. Yeah. Well, I didn't roll a PE. So yeah. So let's just say I have an average PE of 10. So it's 152. Again, you guys get the idea of what's going on here. And what does it say for starting spells? Does it actually talk about starting spells? Secondary skills, starting equipment, clothing. I don't see anything here that says number of spells. I'm not going to dig for it if it doesn't. I'm sure it's in here. I mean, he's got learning new spells, additional spells. Oh, there we go. So for game purposes, we'll assume the character has learned a few additional spells. Okay, is that on top of this? Oh, common knowledge, decipher magic, sense magic, cloud of slumber, globe of daylight, and tongues, plus enchanted cauldron, which is a whole deal on this other side over here. So those are just the spells you start with. Now, your game master could change it up and make them something different. After that, we'll assume the character's learned a few additional skills. Spells. The player may select 2 spells of choice, each level 1 and 2. So to start the game out, you can't have fireball or armor Ithan, I guess, day 1, unless you cry to your game master. But you can have first or second level spells to start. After that, though, there's no real limit Spells and ritual magic of any level can be learned or purchased at any time. You are not limited by spells. So just because it says it's a 6th level spell does not mean you can get it. You just got to be able to find somebody who can teach it to you and get it. So very diverse, very powerful, very awesome. But it does come, I mean, you still can only do it so many times per day. Yeah. I mean, you only have a certain mana resource, PPE resource in this one. So I think that's it. I don't want to just go rambling. So we already looked at the OCCs real quickly when it came to, what do you call it? The OCCs. And as much as I'd love to spend time on the Diabolist, I love it. And just remember, there's a video out there, and it's not in the description. I did put the Heathen Dog Psychic thing, which we'll talk about in the next segment, and I did put the Palladium store. But if I remember correctly, I will add my Diabolist video to the description of this video. But I think it's time that we move on to Psychics. 8 Pillars, I think this is going to be a 4-hour live stream. I really do. I think it's going to be around a 4-hour live stream to get through the 8 Pillars. But I hope this overview is good for everybody. Obviously, Palladium folks, they know what's going on. They probably wish I'd go deeper, but this is a whole book we're trying to go through. The idea here is to put this game, Palladium Fantasy role-playing game, in front of you as something to not just consider, but to really try. Say, you know what? This game looks awesome. I want to give it a go. And I'm trying to give you all the 8 pillars, as I'm calling them, just for this. It's not really the 8 pillars I've had for my entire life. I just came up for this video. The 8 pillars are things I think are important for you to see its diversity, its flexibility, and its awesomeness. So let's talk about Psychics. And the Palladium folks already know probably where I'm starting with this. All right, I have a lot to say. I've scripted a lot for this one. A bunch of bullet points and a bunch of scripty notes here that I've got to say about Psychics. First, here's my little overview. Psionics brings a different kind of power to the table. It's subtle, surgical, and sometimes terrifying in how cleanly it can solve problems. A psychic does not simply replace a wizard, but he plays a different game, reading danger, bending minds, healing, sensing the unseen, and turning tension into advantage. This is where Palladium Fantasy separates itself from the pack, and it's part most people skip until they see it in action. Now, for full disclosure, I hate psionics in every game ever. It always ends up being the ability to use a power at any time with no one noticing, to get out of any situation. It's basically the get out of jail free card that I don't like. Warriors have to draw weapons, thieves have to get positioning, mages have to dance and shout their power, but a psychic, oh no, he can just pretend to sleep and mess up a situation without anyone ever knowing. Personally, I don't like that. With that said, as the Palladium people are slamming on their keyboards right now, trying to correct every word that I said right there, as much as I generally hate psychics, man, does Palladium handle them beautifully. Yes, they have that subtle power that I despise, but this world understands that, and oftentimes prepares for it. Psychics need to be wary of people who can recognize and even counter their powers. I hate saying this, but I love psychics in Palladium Fantasy. Their balance to magic and steel is like the chef's kiss of perfection that I want to hate, but I can't. And neither should you. Finally, in the Gamer Talk or Rifts playlist, I already put it in the description of this video, Heathen Dog confronts the idea that psionics are useless or underpowered. I think he did that with Kevin, as a matter of fact. While that discussion was tailored towards the Rifts RPG, it holds true for Palladium Fantasy as well. If you believe that psionics are underpowered in Palladium Fantasy, you couldn't be more wrong, and you really need to check out that video. Hopefully, well, I did remember to put a link in the description. So, all right, that was a long intro. A lot to say on that. So let's take a quick look at Psychics and Psionics in Palladium Fantasy. And remember, there are other books out there where you can get even more psychic characters. The main thing about psychics, while I'm looking this up, psionic strips, psychic powers. Yep, right there. I guess we'll start with psychic powers. It's just going the order of the book. Is that they're quick, they're easy, but they're typically lower powered. They're supposed to be more subtle. They're not supposed to be blowing people up. If you want to blow people up, you play the mage or the wizard. If you want to be sneaky and add little bonuses and do little quirky things here, I don't mean funny, I mean useful quirky things, and we'll look at them, then you play the psychic. It's really that much of a distinction. All right, psychic powers, inner strength points. This right here, this is the PPE, but for whatever reason, I know there's a history behind it, and it's something to do with how, like, I think the conversion between first and second edition. Inner strength points are for psychic, well, potential psychic energy is for magic. It's something we laugh about, with Palladium. It's quirky. Don't worry about it. Don't get confused. We know PPE for magic, ISP for psychic powers. Okay, there you go. And it talks about how to regain it. And just like wizards, you're going to have a lot more ISP than other folks out there. So we're not going to look at how you get that. Oh, that's right. They use the term psychic character classes in here instead of occupational character classes. And I'm going to look at the Psi healer because here's your cleric. You're going to want the cleric in the party, right? I'm not even going to read what that is. We're just going to go here. What do you get? Psionic powers. At level 1, the psychic automatically has the following abilities: deaden pain, exorcism, exorcise the demons, healing touch, increase healing, psychic diagnosis, psychic purification, psychic surgery, and see aura and empathy. Actually, I should say see aura and empathy. Additional psionic abilities. Character gets to select one additional power from either the healing or physical psionic categories for each additional level of experience, starting at level 2. Let's take a look at that. Do we have these categories up here? Nope, that's just powers. Where are the psychic abilities? I do want to show the, there's healing. Okay. So here's healing psionics. Here's physical psionics. Come on, there's more. Sensitive psionics. And each type of psychic is going to lean towards one or the other. And then super psionics, which I think only the mind mage can get. If somebody in chat can correct me if I'm wrong. I think only the mind mage can get the super psionics. And there are a bunch of those. There we go. And then magic is after that. Now, it doesn't look like there are as many psychic powers, and that might be true, but they're really versatile, number 1. And number 2, there's always another book. Oh, here we go. I could have just done this page. Yeah. So those are the psychic powers. And you don't really have to go learning them in the same way you do magic. Once you have them, you have them, right? Okay, so let's go back to the healer. So that means you can pick, what was it? The character can select one additional power from either the healing or physical psionic categories for each level experience starting at level 2. Oh, so he doesn't even get that level 1. That's starting at level 2. So healing or physical. Well, let's look at those again. I know, doing a lot of scrolling here. Hopefully you're not getting a headache. So it's this column right here. We'll zoom in. And here are the ones for healing. Notice he didn't have them all. So maybe later on we want to get induced sleep. We want to get attack disease. I don't think I saw that one in there. Transfer ISP. That's a good one. Is that to me or from me, or is it both? I don't know. And then physical, impervious to fire, mind block. That's always an important one, right? Teleport object. Oh, that's cool. That's under physical. Okay. Telekinetic punch, telekinetic leap. So you know what? You can have telekinetic punch and still be the healer. You got to have something that you can do out there to knock people around a little bit. Okay. So let's go back down to, wait, it was above, wasn't it? I'll get there. Now, to determine the character's amount of inner strength points, take the mental endurance attribute. Remember, that's one of the 8 attributes as the base. Roll 2d6 times 10. Give me 2d6 here. And my mage is awesome. How about this guy? 4 and a 5. That's 9. So that's 90. We'll just assume a 10 base for ME. You'd probably have more as a psychic, to be honest with you, but we'll go with the 10 base to keep the math easy. So we've got 90. We've got 100. The character gets another 10 for each additional level experience, starting at level 1. So that's 110. And he's considered to be a master psionics. So that means I save rolling a 12 or better against psionics. Not a 10, because I'm not a super whatever that is. But I'm also not just a layman, so I don't have to roll 15 or higher. I get to roll 12 or higher. And we talked about that in the combat section. And we don't worry about the rest of these. Now, as a master psionic, the psi healer needs to roll a 10 or higher to save versus psionic attack. Oh. That isn't what the table said. Wait, did it say? Wait, I'm sorry. I might be wrong. I think it did say minor or master, didn't it? That was page 46. We're on 59 now. Hold on. I may have said that wrong. Okay. 15 or better for non-psionic, 12 or better for major or minor, 10 for master. I was confusing major and master. That was my fault. So he's a master psionic. Did I go to the wrong page? Thought that was the page I read. Apparently I was wrong. Here we go. So he's a master psionic. So I was wrong. It's not a 12 or better. It's a 10 or better. Get back to this. Plus any ME bonus. So if he has a high ME, he'd actually add that as well. +4 to save versus mind controlling drugs, potions, and magic charms. So that might be like a toxin saving throw, but if it affects his mind, he gets a +4 bonus to save versus that. Because this character, first of all, he understands the body. He is also psychic, so he's in control of his faculties. +4 to save versus poisons and disease. Why? Because you know what? He's just got a psychic aversion to diseases. +7 to save versus possession. Good luck doing that. I'm going to demon possess you. +12% to save versus coma. That gets into deeper combat stuff that we didn't talk about, but it means that he can survive better. And +2 to save versus horror factor. He's not as creeped out by stuff. So there you go. That's him. I'm not going to read all the other things here because we already looked at what OCCs do when we looked at that little paladin, but I'll zoom in on this just a little bit. The OCC skills and the OCC related, so you can get an idea of what he gets there. That's really it. You know what? We've covered so much in this book. I don't think there's too much more to talk about with psychic. Oh, you probably want to see a psychic power or two, don't you? So we'll do, there's the Psi Mystic, which remember, this is the one that's half and half. And then this is the Mind Mage that I think somebody said earlier is overpowered. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. If I were to play one, I'd play the Psi Healer because I love playing clerics and I love this concept. So that would be me. So healing powers. Let's just look at attack disease. Sounds cool. Attack that disease. Healing touch, increased healing. Let's just look at increased healing because I don't know. What does that do? So for 10 ISP, remember I had what, 120, whatever the number was? 110? So touch or within 3 feet. It lasts for 2d4 days. You have to be in a trance for D6 hours. So apparently you have to humana to get this in on you. And that's cool. I'm glad it's not just flinging the heals out there. Heal for you and heal for you and you get a heal and you get a heal. The healer is able to stimulate another person's healing energies, dramatically increasing one's recuperative powers. Hit points and SDC recovery are double the normal professional. So this isn't like healing out in the woods. And I don't remember what professional treatment rate is, but I know it's quite a bit. It's double that. And that's your natural healing. And that lasts for 2d4 days. This is a great thing to put on a group of people that might be going into some combat and know that they got to keep traveling. And it's going to be a while before they come across a new outpost or way station or somebody with any medical skills. That's pretty darn cool. That's actually cooler than I thought it was going to be. Psychic surgery. Let's just see what that does. 2d6 minutes, so length of trance, 2d6 minutes of preparatory meditation, plus the duration of the surgery itself, which is half the time of conventional modern medicine. So you Google search that to find out how long it takes, as is the recovery time of the patient. Only cost 14 ISP. Psychic surgery is used to repair broken bones and internal injuries, the removal of foreign objects, or when a character has suffered so much damage he has lapsed into a coma. Recovery from a coma is equal to treatment from modern hospital and a 1 to 66% chance when psychic surgery is used. So that's good. That's good. You have a 2/3% chance of coming out of that with no real issues. Note there's absolutely no scarring from psychic surgery and minimal pain. No pain if the deadened pain psi ability is used. No tools are needed, only the psychic's hands. Note a psychic diagnosis must be made before surgery is possible. Yeah, you kind of have to diagnose the problem before you know what it is. And that's just a reminder that you have to continue to do that. Let's pick something from a different sensitive powers. God, those are long. Clairvoyance. Okay, that makes sense. Astral projection. I don't want to read anything that long. Queen with animals, queen with spirits. Think those make sense. Dispel spirits. Empathy. You know what? We'll take a look. Oh no, mind block. Mind block is an important one. All right, 4 ISP per each duration period. Now, what's the duration? 10 minutes per level experience. So if your first level, every 10 minutes, you got to spend 4 ISP. Your third level, every 30 minutes, you've got to spend 4 ISP. All right. This is the ability to completely close or block oneself from most psychic mental emanations. When intentionally close to supernatural psychic forces, the character cannot sense anything, cannot use the psionic abilities, nor be psionically influenced by others. So it's a door, man. You're blocking yourself in, but blocking the bad people out as well. A mind block will prevent penetration of telepathy, empathy, hypnotic suggestion, induced nightmares, and empathic transfer. It can be an invaluable protective mask when dealing with malevolent psychic forces. It also adds a bonus of +1 to save versus all psychic and mental attacks. Okay. So it only protects you directly from a couple, but remember, there aren't like a million psionics here, and then gives you a +1 to save versus any sort of psychic and mental attack. There you go. Let's read one superpower. Advanced trance, cure insanity, cause insanity, cure insanity. Well, I'm glad there's a reverse. That's nice of you. Electrokinesis, that's long. Group mind block. Pathing. So these look like they're just normal psionics, but on a grander scale. What they're looking like so far. Invisible haze, hypnotics. Man, these are so long. I don't want to read these. Mind wipe. Oh, there we go. We're gonna read mind bolt. No, mind wipe. Mind wipe just sounds cooler. Okay, touch. You have to touch person. Duration is special. ISP is special. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Standard. A successful save means a person's unaffected and still retains his memory. Ooh, I haven't even read this, and that sounds uh-oh. To mind wipe an intelligent creature, the psychic must make physical contact, touching his victim's temples to erase whatever he desires. This is done by verbal suggestion and can erase any past event, knowledge, skill, and so on. This process takes about 3 minutes to complete. The loss of memory is temporary, lasting 1 to 4 days for every 10 ISP expended. The memory can be permanently erased if the psionic exerts 50 ISP at once. So if you look at my first level character, that's not even half. A psionic can also permanently wipe a mind completely blank by expending 50 ISP and permanently sacrificing 4 mental endurance points. I'm guessing that's from the psychic, not from the target. Otherwise, that really wouldn't be much of a penalty, would it? This is an extremely grueling process for the psychic, and the loss of the 4 ME points is permanent even if the opponent successfully saves against the wipe and is not affected. That is typical Palladium for you. Risk, reward, and consequences. What you wanted to do is a really big douchebag maneuver. So, you know what? You can do it, but there's going to be a cost, even if you fail. Okay. All right. So there you go. Oh, Psy Sword. That's pretty cool. I'm sure the Rift Cyber Knight people like that. And yeah, I'm not going to read through the rest of that. You get the idea of what there is for psychic powers. I actually thought I was going to spend more time on psychic powers than I did. But, you know, with the exception of getting another book, really, I just want to stay focused on this book to kind of show that this is the only book you need. That's, I mean, that's it. Psychics are in their niche quite powerful. Outside their niche, not as much. I would say, you know, I don't know what's more versatile, magic or psionics. You know, I have to have one of the other guys talk about that. But in an action by action, because one of the things we didn't talk about is the psionic power. Well, other than the ones that say that it's got the trance, a psionic power is an action. So if you have 4 actions per round, you can go, you get a mind bolt, you get a mind bolt, you get a mind bolt, and you get a mind bolt 4 times per round. Where if you remember, the spellcasters were limited to a maximum of 2 low-level spells, 1 high-level spell, and 1 high-level spell be 2 rounds for really high-level ones, right? The psychic can just keep darting those things out. So, as I said before, they play differently. They basically play different games. They're similar in look, but once you get them on the table, you find out that they play quite differently. So, I don't see a lot of chat moving here. According to this, we still have over 40 people watching. So, thank you very much, everybody who's watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, share. We got a couple more things to talk about here, but let's see what chat did say. And that was back on PPE. Law Dog says a fireball and Palladium only affects 1 target. Okay. Already discovered that. Yeah. By the way, guys, I think a couple of you dropped in. This is just a rough overview. If I'm making a mistake by forgetting to add 10 PPE or something like that, I don't mind you guys mentioning in the chat, but just know that I don't really care. because I'm not trying to, I'm not promoting the game as like all the specifics. It's like, look at the variations in the game. Look at all the flexibility and fun you can have in the game is more of what I'm going for. So, all right. So with that, since there wasn't a lot of chat for that one, but again, thank you for everybody that's watching. Let's find out what our next segment is. What are we going? Oh, okay. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the game as a whole. What have we looked over? We looked over the races, what an OCC is, and how many of those there are. And again, there are more books and how you can create your own and whatever else. I mean, this game is about your imagination. It's not about the limitations of every +1, +2. And no, I don't want you doing that. We talked about the skills. We talked about combat. We talked about magic. We talked about psionics. So there's 6 down. We've got 2 more to go. Well, now I want to dive into something a little different. And this one's going to be probably not looking at the book so much. It's going to be a little bit more opinionated. And I got a few bullet points here that I want to talk about. And that's the idea that this game is good for you, whether you like high fantasy, or I should say heroic fantasy. If you like heroic fantasy, if you like gritty fantasy, or something in between. And one of the things that I noted when I wrote my notes is that my personal bias came through on this a little bit, and I apologize for that. I lean towards the gritty. I like games with lethality and consequences. Not meat grinders. Nobody likes a meat grinder game. But I'm talking, I like games that make you come out of the fight bleeding, sweating, needing to recuperate for a couple weeks, but going, we won. We won. I might never grow this finger again, but we won. Things like that. Like, I'm into this. It's why I like the insanities. It's why I like a lot of things that come with the game. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can play your high fantasy tropes in this as well. So let's see what I wrote down for these notes. The core book frames the game as stories of survival, courage, and triumph. Now, again, after rereading that, it's like, yeah, that kind of leans towards the gritty. But survival isn't just like, oh my God, survival against the spreadsheet, it's survival against the rationing, it's survival against the resource management. No. It's the fact that the world is alive, you're surviving in it, and it needs people to be strong, courageous, and victorious. It invites the group to create heroes. Yes, there's the witch. Say no to the witch. There you go. Yes, there's the dark priest. Say no to the dark priest or priest of darkness. You can play this game how you want. Yes, as much as I say don't, especially when you're using demi-humans. God, it just totally screws over demi-humans when you do this. But don't change the dice from 3d6. But if you're really like, no, I want my characters to have, the group to have at least 3 or 4 exceptional stats, well, then you can do 46 reroll 1s through 5s if that's really what you want to do. The point is that the powers in the game, the world itself, especially when you get into the world books, if you even want to make your own world, who cares? Nobody cares if you make your own world. We did that in D&D all the time, right? If you're coming over from Dungeons and Dragons and you've got your own world, this game will just put these rules over it, put these classes over it. You absolutely can do that. But even if you do get into this game's world, the world books are written in such a manner, they give you so much. I mean, we're talking like 150 pages, if not more. I don't know what the average book size is, but maybe even upwards of 200 pages of information. But the way the information is given is it gives you everything you need or want to know about new equipment, new skills, the lay of the land, the hierarchy, the kingdoms, the people, but enough freedom to still use it however you want. However you want. You're going to read that and go, my God, this is about one. It's to be like, the state that I live in here, Alabama, or where I'm originally grew up in Minnesota. Like, wow, that's a pretty thick book about all the things in Minnesota. And then you realize, well, never mention my hometown. Never mention these things that happen. Never mention, there's still a lot of room in here for me to do what the heck I want. And you can do that. So Palladium is a framework. It is a framework in the rules system. It is a framework in the lore. It's to give you tools to help you make the game you want. How close you want to be to the Palladium world specifically is your business and nobody else's. All right? So the book sets clear mythic stakes. Forces of light and dark clash. Ancient gods and mythic creatures move the pieces, and sooner or later, every man and woman must Take a stand on the side of good or evil. Now, do you have to do that in your game? No, you could play. Um, can you play a for golden glory type group of characters? Yes, you could do that easily. Can you play scoundrels? Yes, you can play that easily. Will that be fun? Probably. If you find it fun now, if you find it fun in Forbidden Lands, if you find it fun in Dungeons and Dragons, if you find it fun in Lord of the Rings, you'll probably find it fun here. But the thing is the game is set up between the elf dwarf war, between when we were talking about the races, how the ogres and the humans and the different kingdoms of the world, they're set up to have these clashes if you want them, and they make perfect sense. There are no limits other than what the game master sets. Triumph does not require a crown and a parade. The text explicitly calls out survival, self-sacrifice, discovery, coming of age, upholding ideals, beating evil, and even overcoming personal weaknesses. That's actually one of my favorite parts of a game. I love watching characters grow. And I don't mean in a two-dimensional sense. I was weak and now I'm strong. No, I have a character that's an alcoholic. That actually causes problems. But as time goes on, I grow over that. Now, that might not be for every table, and I get that. Maybe I just have, how about this? I have a character that's insecure, and I grow into being a charismatic, charming young prince. So many things you can do, man. This game is built, as somebody said earlier, I think it was Tank said earlier, this game is built openly for the story gamer. And don't take that the wrong way. I'll even say the sandbox story gamer. But it can be as railroady as you want, as sandboxy as you want. It can be as story gaming as you want. It can be as tightly controlled as you want. And when you read the rules, you understand why. The game rewards heroic play in satisfying campaign fueling ways. Treasure, repairs, better equipment, respect, fame, and most importantly, the experience point system, which I think I said earlier that I might talk about. It doesn't reward kills. It rewards heroism. It rewards swift and smart action. It rewards taking out minor menaces and doing what is appropriate for the character. So you killed the big bad at the end? Okay, it's worth 1,400 experience. But it was bigger than the last one. Uh-huh. But last time you were a level lower. So, it's not about what you kill. It's not about how many you kill. It's about defeating. It's about rectifying the situation. It's about resolving the issue, not about how many hit points you marked down from something else. And the experience point system is second only to the alignment system and absolute awesomeness that Palladium has. Team dynamics matter, and I said this earlier. And the book welcomes imperfect heroes and messy personalities. Use that pitch, real heroes. The group wins the day through overall goals. I said that totally wrong. I meant to tell myself as a note, use that to pitch real heroes. The group wins the day through overall goals, strengths, and pressure-tested camaraderie. I mentioned that earlier. Oh my God, it looks like combat in this game could take forever. No, not when you're ganging up on somebody 5-1. The game is as dark or as light as you make it. You are not constrained by the setting or the system, only by your table's desires. And I keep hitting that home. So play the paladin in the blinding white armor with his shimmering mount, and play the mage in his brightest white robes and pointy hat and most endearing and fun and engaging magic. Or we go to the gritty. The Palladium world can be harsh. The book flat out says violence and aggression run commonplace. Monster races fight each other and humans. Rival kingdoms struggle to defend lands or conquer others. Look at the Western kingdoms. Look no further than the Western kingdom. Law and justice often vanish in the wilderness, where the strong prey upon the weak, and monsters, madmen, and tyrants show up everywhere. That sentence screams Borderlands or Hinterlands play. Consequences never take a day off. If a character acts like a murderous thug, the world responds. Authorities, knights, paladins, bounty hunters, wizards. Someone hunts him down. This supports grounded play where actions create problems or solve problems. This is probably the most important and overlooked concept of the Palladium fantasy setting and system. Consequences, both good and bad. You do something, you get well, or you do something good, you get rewarded for it. Do something bad, well, somebody comes after you for it. They're integral to the setting's verisimilitude. Even in evil places, power structures enforce order, military, militia, police, monstrous minions, magic, because rulers protect their land and property. That gives you instant oppression campaigns, corrupt sheriffs, and survival under a boot. The Old Kingdom functions as a ready-made grim sandbox. It stands as the domain of monsters, with ruined cities, hordes, and tribes across the plains. Of course, riches, right? Wastelands, foothills, mountains, and tunnels. That is pure boots in the muck exploration. But with that exploration, risk, reward, risk, reward. The Balgor Wastelands gives you desolation with history. The book describes it as obliterated by a catastrophic mystic onslaught. Now, a forbidding land with nomadic monster tribes and hard travel. Again, where do you think some of the most fun and interesting things are going to be? Well, I'm seeing my numbers really jump. I went from 50 to 40 to 35 to 55 to 40. What are you guys doing? The Old Kingdom shows practical frontier realism. Only a handful of elven cities remain. Humans hold a few outposts, but hostile monster races push hard enough to stall expansion. The terrain itself becomes an enemy. The text describes harsh, hot, humid, rocky regions around volcanic mountains, plus grasslands and scrub. Perfect for fatigue, supply pressure, and hard choices. For parties into that kind of pressure. I actually do like resource management games. I don't like it when it's all spreadsheet management, like oh my God, we got to do all the logistics. No, but I like it conceptually. We're running out of food, guys. We got to have time to hunt. No, we got to go. We're being chased, man. We got to go. Okay, yeah, you're right. We got to go. Hopefully, in the next place, we can figure this out. I like that kind of stuff. Again, like I said, I think some of my grittiness that I like bleeds through with this. What I'm trying to show here is that there's different types. You can do this through powerful creatures. You can do this through corrupt kingdoms. You can do this through hordes of mini creatures. You could do this through the survival mechanics. There's so many different ways that you can do this, all or none, whatever. The timeline and today's snapshot sets active geopolitical tension. And what I'm talking about in that is in the book, it says, it basically says, here's the history of this land, and then says this is what it's doing today. Border hostility rises. I mean, there's kind of a continuing story. Look at the Wolfen. The Wolfen are expanding. Go Wolfen. War feels inevitable, and multiple people sit on a knife's edge. You can use that to pitch or to create your own living world campaigns. And then there's the middle ground, the hybrid. Heroic fantasy does not replace the dirty boots play. You can have both. It grows out of it. Your heroes are muddied up, but they're heroes, and the sunlight gleams behind them, and they get to bounce off the little bit of that shiny armor while they got some blood trails dripping down their face, and the rest of them look really dirty. You can combine the two. The book literally defines triumph as sheer survival as easily as defeating evil. So grit and glory share the same foundation. You can be heroic. Put the mud on the halo. Start with, I think I may have gone too far with some of these. Where like I was trying to beat home this idea, but I'll keep reading them. They're my bullet points. I took the time for them, so you're going to get the time with them. Put mud on the halo. Start with wilderness lawlessness and consequence-driven towns. Consequence. Then escalate into larger light versus dark struggle when the characters earn the spotlight. Orcs are attacking. Well, let's go kill them. Why are the orcs attacking? This is weird. Now ogres are attacking. Now we got monsters coming in. What is going on here? We got to figure this out. Oh, come to find out, there's an evil cult that is doing all this from 100 days travel away that you can't get to easily, and they're setting up rituals and they're summoning demons and they're making this an ultimate fight for the world. But you build into that, starting with these weird things that start off earlier, right? Sell the world as wonders and horrors, and both fit, especially if you dive into the elf dwarf war at all. They fit so perfectly. That phrase captures the exact tonal duality you want for epic stories that still draw blood and demand supplies. Use mercy as a campaign engine. There's a section of the book I was going to look at, but I kind of skipped over it. But it talks about you don't have to kill everything. Mercy is actually a virtue. The book pushes surrender, confiscation, turning bandits over to authorities, then warns that mercy can haunt you and create the recurring arch enemy. That is the heroic myth built from gritty decisions. But you got to be careful with that. I say that because what you'll do is you'll turn your character, just kill him. He's just going to come back and come after us again. No, a good game master might have the first person flip. The second person just run off and go into obscurity. The third person become an informant. The fourth person, that's the guy you thought he ran off into obscurity, but that's the one that comes back. If you do it every time, they're just going to murder hobo. Like, well, he's just going to come back and screw us anyway. No. Reward them some small degree. One, for playing their alignments, and two, for being the heroes or being humane, if not human. But you got to do it at least at some point here, right? Remember when you got me at level 3 and you gave me a beat down? Well, I'm back for you guys, and now they're like level 8. They maybe even forgot about the guy. Like, oh, crap. In this game, heroism is not always clean. A hero earns its place where law fails, monsters rule ruins, and every victory has a cost. Ultimately, this is a complete game book in one, with expansions for days if you want more. You can do everything out of this book and your imagination. If that all sounds too gritty for you, that's probably, again, I already said I had this scripted in here, so I'm just going to read it. But yeah, if that all sounds too gritty for you, that's probably my bias shining through. I prefer gritty games and campaigns. I promise you can play it as shining and heroic as you want, whether in the Palladium world or one of your own choosing. Now, finally, I debated wrapping this all up into one segment, but I didn't know how long I was going to talk about that one and how chat was going to go. Actually, I should look at chat before we go into the last pillar, if we want to call it that. Palladium games like going to supermarket. Just because there's an aisle filled with potato chips doesn't mean you have to buy potato chips, right? Go to the next aisle. Go buy your Hershey's. If you try to play Palladium Combat by the numbers like a video game, it will take forever. If you play it the way it's meant to be played, it's a lot faster. So, I like this. I like this comment here. A knight in shining armor means the knight hasn't had his metal tested. And you can spell metal both ways if you want on that one. All right. Let's go into the last one. Like I said, wow, it's going to be just under 4 hours, this live stream. I said I wasn't going to clip this into videos. I might. Who knows? I'm certainly going to timestamp it when time permits. But let's hit the last pillar that I wanted to get into, and it's a complete game. One book gives you everything. Are you going to want to stop there? No. But to get you started, one book gives you everything. Palladium Fantasy 2E gives you that rare, satisfied feeling of, I bought one book and I can run a one-shot or a real campaign for many years. You do not need, you'll want, but you don't need a stack of expansions to get for fantasy play. Meaningful character variety and a setting that feels older than the party. I didn't even dive into that. I should have dove more into the 100,000 years plus of the history of this world, right? That makes it a perfect first game or migration for groups that want a fresh home without an endless buy-in. This book is a complete role-playing game with all the rules you need to play, and it packs the support content to prove it. Well over 300 pages, 336, if I remember correctly, 100,000 years of history, hundreds of spells and psionics, magic items, potions and powders, curses, fairy foods, and practical adventuring tools like poisons, herbs, and components. You get more than enough campaign fuel in one package. But you do know what's going to happen, right? You're going to want to know more. You want to know more about the Wolfen Empire, Cyclops Isle, the Library of Belthrad, I can never say the dang word. The Yinsloth Jungles, Yinsloth, an Expedition to Yinsloth, coming out soon. These world books are the perfect balance between giving you necessary information about an area and the openness and freedom to make it your own. And that's really it. I mean, I can expand upon this more, but this is a crazy long overview already as it is. The thing that I want to get through and why it's so important that I say that this is, I think I put in the title that the your next best not D&D game or something like that. It's, let's be fair. It's because, D&D is 800-pound gorilla. Also right now, a lot of people, WotC and D&D are kind of losing luster with some folks, whether it's OSR folks, or even the new OSR folks or whatever they're called. There are a lot of people who are searching for a new game. And while I probably should have been working on a Turtles video, this one made sense right now. And I just want to push back one last time against the people who say things like, the book is horribly laid out. Well, read the dang thing. At least Game Masters, read it. You'll have all the information. And then as Squirrel Hermit said earlier, mark the pages that you're like, wait a minute, where was that? I think this book has an index. Hold on. Sometimes Palladium books don't have indices, or does it? Scroll. Hold on, I'm waiting for my computer to. There we go. Scroll. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. There you go. A lot of advertisement experience. Nope, doesn't have one there. But then it also gives things at the beginning. Hold on, we're not done. I didn't ruin everything. Oh, my computer's not liking this PDF. Okay, so saving throws. Did I just see saving throws? Because I know it's in the combat section. I saw something. First things first, I want to look to see if there's any combat rules. Saving throws against. So we do have saving throws. It's on page 48. I thought it was 46, but it's 48. Okay. And then do we have it in the quick find? Alphabetical order? Probably not. SDC skills tables. How to horror factor magic. Spellcast, spell description. Saving throws right there. 184. Oh, because that's right. Because they're unified on that, like page 46 or 48, but then they're also talked about again in these other ones. So, okay. But, and then where do you find shields? Well, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's in the actual weapon proficiencies of sword and shield, not in the equipment. I could be wrong about that, but I know that's another one that people complain about. The idea is, though, is it's there. Give the book, a good looking through. Play it how you want. Enjoy it. I hope, whether it's all the way back on the races, whether it's talk about the OCCs, showing off how skills work, whatever it happened to be, I hope I was able to inspire at least a couple of people to check it out. Is it in weapons and equipment where it talks about blocking and so forth? I thought there was an issue with this book where shields weren't where the rules for shields weren't where they were supposed to be. Kind of like the archery ranges. The archery ranges are given under the bow weapon proficiency and not with the weapon itself. But and maybe I'm wrong. What? There we go. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. If you have any questions, comments, concerns about Palladium Fantasy, you thought this live stream was too long. Remember, this is a live stream. This is not a curated, edited video. If you thought that I should have covered something more differently or better, let me know. There we go. It says the shields are in the weapon proficiency list. And little things like that can throw people off. Just don't try to overcomplicate it. Don't try to rules lawyer it. There are plenty of, you got the Palladium Books forums. You've got our, the Legion Myth Discord. There are people who happily, Walter, I'm talking to you, happily respond to any questions or confusions you've got. The Palladium community as a whole can be very pedantic. I see this everywhere I go, but they're also very helpful. And so if you have any questions or any like, how do I do this? How do I do the next thing? We're all here to help. We're all here to support. And I would love to see this game that's been out for 40 some years. Okay. In this format, like 25 years or so, really get some more love from tables out there. So with that, all the folks in chat, appreciate you guys chiming in. I really appreciate a lot of lurkers today. So you know what? I'm happy for you as well. Thanks for the folks who are lurking. Thanks for all the super chats I got earlier. I really appreciate that. I'm probably cutting into dinner time or somebody's real live stream time right now, but I did keep it under 4 hours. That's good. It's 3 hours and 19 minutes. Yeah, there we are right now, 3 hours and 19 minutes. I don't think that's bad for a full book overview. Check us out this Sunday. I mean, you might be watching this years down the road, but whatever. Check it out this Sunday, where I will go back to talking about Stars Without Number. I think we're going to be covering the combat system, if I remember correctly. And Heathen Dog, I don't know what he's doing. I think he's doing a Rifter. We've also talked about maybe having him do some more stuff out of Palladium Fantasy himself. So, you are very welcome. And yes, it was definitely epic. But hey, pass this along to somebody, even if they're like, look, man, that's way too long. So that's right. He's got it in 8 chunks. I will timestamp it. I don't know if it'll be right away, but within the next 24 hours, this will be timestamped. So it's like, just pick it one step at a time. That's all you need. Cool. But with that, this Friday, coincidentally, this Friday on Game Master Insight is going to be all about gritty. Well, it's not really gritty versus heroic. It's going to be how much grit and consequence and lethality do you want in your games? And we've got somebody on who's definitely on the heroic side. We've got somebody on that's definitely on the kill 'em all side. And we've got somebody who's like, I think there's a good blend. So I think it'll be a great conversation. So check that out at Game Master Insight on Friday. And with that, no more Minnesota goodbye. Appreciate everybody being here. And I hope each and every one of you has a great day.